Welcome to Corporate Warrior, the podcast that brings you the best advice on how to improve your health, optimize performance, and maximize productivity. With your host, Lawrence Neal.
Hi guys, it's Lawrence Neal and welcome to another episode of Corporate Warrior, where it is my job to interview the experts on how to optimize productivity in fitness, business and lifestyle to learn about the business skills, mindsets, exercise regimens, productivity tactics and rituals and more that you can use in your own life for more success and excitement. Guests include productivity pioneers like David Allen, fitness and nutrition experts like Mark Sisson and Dr. Doug McGuff, high-intensity training experts, exercise scientists, successful entrepreneurs, New York Times best-selling authors, elite adventure racers, and more. Today's guest is the founder of the OCD Stories website and podcast and my close friend Stuart Ralph, who will be referred to as Ralph from this point forward for the reason that I find it very weird to call him Stuart, as I've always called him Ralph. Ralph and I met at university and we both share a passion for personal development and building websites and online brands. We've stayed friends ever since and we lived together for a few years during university and afterward. Ralph is a very different guest from the guests I've had on the show. He's not a high-intensity training or fitness expert, nor is he a multi-millionaire yet, but he is a very passionate entrepreneur who is on his way to building a fantastic brand, which in terms of podcast listeners, website traffic and user engagement, he's already growing very, very quickly, and actually quicker than my podcast, I have to say. Ralph is a recovering sufferer of OCD himself. OCD stands for Obsessive Compulsive Disorder. He has made it his mission to help people understand what OCD really is, and he gives sufferers the tools and means to help them on their journey to recovery. He's interviewed some of the top psychologists and OCD experts, including Bob Berg, Stephen Hayes, Royce White, and Chad Lejeune. Essentially, you will love this episode if, number one, you are a novice entrepreneur who wants to learn a lot about strategy and specific tactics for growing your business and brand. Number two, you want to learn how to balance a stressful and challenging lifestyle, which includes a full-time job, business on the side, relationships, social life, etc. And number three, you want to learn more about OCD and how to prevent it from robbing you of performance, motivation, and joy. All of the show notes and links with this for this episode even will be in the usual place on corpwarrior.com. That's CORP Warrior WARRIOR.com, and that will redirect you to 15-minute corporatewarrior.com. So without further ado, please enjoy this interview with rising star and my best mate Stuart Ralph. So when you're at a party or a social gathering and someone asks, Mr. Ralph, what do you do? What do you say?
I go with the corporate role first because it's the one that's going to break the least paradigms and realities. So I'll say I work in in-store shopper loyalty from the digital side of things. I don't particularly want to go into more than that, but I would go into a little bit more detail. And then if I generally like the person, trust them, and just generally want to continue a conversation, then I might go, well, actually, you know, what I'm really passionate about is helping people achieve the best in their lives. I do that by targeting people with OCD and anxiety disorders, because I myself have suffered. I probably wouldn't have said that last bit to them. And I would say I do the OCD Stories, which is a website where people can share their stories to give them hope and inspiration in their dark moments, and education as well. I think you learn a lot from other sufferers' stories. And also now the podcast lasts sort of 5 months off the back of that. And I interview therapists, researchers, and other sufferers, finding the best advice and sometimes going beyond the gold standard, as they call it, in current therapy for OCD, and trying to find the other stuff that really helps, which doesn't get talked about.
I guess maybe you're like me, like when you're in that social setting, someone say, what do you do? And you say, obviously it depends on the context. Like if you're at like an entrepreneurial meetup, then you're going to more likely to start with the OCD Stories. Absolutely. And the latter of what you just said. But like if you're at work or whatever, like in a work context, I say work as in, the full-time job, the marketing side of things. you'll just kind of keep it like, yeah, and I'm in marketing. And I'm the same. I'll say, you know, I'm in IT sales. And it's only when people start probing and peeling back the layers and showing interest, then it's worth going there. Otherwise, it's just they just glaze over. I found personally. I don't.
Yeah, no. I completely agree. And it's also like, because you could look at it like people I work with have no idea what I do around my website and podcast. You know, my last company did, because I was more open with them. But this new company, I decided that, you know, I wanted to keep it separate, because, you know, sometimes it can be a conflict of interest. They think you're working on your, as Gary Vaynerchuk calls it, your side hustle. And ultimately, you know, I've just gone a master's degree around mental health. So I'm going to be doing that in September, which means going part-time. Again, that's a conflict of interest. So sometimes I find it easier just to keep quiet about that.
You know, with social media these days, and obviously you're really active on lots of different social media platforms, it's almost inevitable that your colleagues and senior management in your full-time job are going to find out about what you do. Does that bother you at all, and how have you managed to alleviate that if you've needed to, if you feel the need to do that?
Yeah, so I just want to reiterate the question, because you cut out a bit at my end. So that's, you know, because I'm active on social media, I'm potentially worried about people seeing that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, so how do you deal with that?
Okay, acceptance. I just accept that it's probably going to happen. I also accept that, yes, I'm pumping out a lot of content, good content, if I might add, but it's a needle in a haystack. There's so much information out there. The only way someone's really going to come across my stuff is if they have OCD, they suffer with anxiety, and in that case, awesome. I'm glad they came across my stuff, because, you know, I can help them now. And then they're instantly, I'm going to have a conversation with them, a meaningful conversation, one in which I enjoy, because we have similar interests, or they have a need, and hopefully I have, to some extent, a solution. So I don't mind in that case. If it's someone who isn't struggling and just generally comes across my Twitter or something, I'll deal with it, you know. I'm fine. I'm not embarrassed by it. I just wanted to keep it separate, because, you know, conflict of interest can sometimes be more hassle than it's worth.
Yeah, I agree. Are you on LinkedIn?
Yeah.
So you actively post on LinkedIn every time you do stuff as well?
No. So LinkedIn is purely my corporate life,
okay.
my corporate alias. Yeah, I don't do anything to do with sort of mental health and OCD stories on that.
Why is that? Is that because you want to keep it
That's
separate?
an obvious place, yeah. If I put it there, you know.
I've found that, to be honest with you, I've found that is the one that potentially you have to be careful with.
You've got it on yours though, right?
I do, but I've stopped. I used to use if this then that.
Yeah.
So when I did a post on Facebook, on my Facebook page, it would automatically post on LinkedIn. But, you know, it's, whilst you want to obviously kind of have that attitude where, it doesn't matter, like abundance mentality, like, you know, it's if they're seeing it, it's almost like, wow, then it must be getting a lot of exposure, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, maybe, but then there's an argument to say, you know, there's plenty of other platforms out there where that part of your life, or those people aren't going to see that, and you're still going to have massive exposure, so it kind of avoids the potential problems. Right, so talking about OCD stories, just to give the listeners context, what is it? What's the aim for your muse in this field?
Yeah, so it's probably worth me clarifying first what OCD is.
Yeah.
Because the majority of people think it means being sort of a neat freak, freaking out if things aren't in order. And a very minor part, yes, that is true, but that is actually a condition in itself. It's called OCPD, which is obsessive compulsive personality disorder. And the key difference between that and someone with OCD is people with OCD hate their thoughts, and they therefore hate their actions. People with OCPD, they sometimes don't like it, but usually they don't mind being a clean freak to some extent. So it's not painful. And this is the misconception, and the media definitely in America and definitely in the UK and many other parts of the world, but I can speak for those two strongly, is that they have somehow latched on to this idea that OCPD is OCD. And it's very damaging to people because people go, not misdiagnosed, but they don't get a checkup because they think, oh, you know, or they think I'm not a clean freak. And it also, it's, you know, harmful because if you're battling with your thoughts and then someone says, oh no, you say, oh, you know, I struggle with OCD, and they're like, oh, what, you a clean freak? You know, it just adds to their torment. So I don't stay on the stigma side of things too much, though. I just thought it'd be worth clarifying. But yeah, OCD is effectively the reason why someone might wash their hands, or the reason why someone might drive back and forth down a road to check if they've killed someone, is because their brain's telling them, you know, might run over a pothole, but your brain's just told you, no, you definitely just hit someone. Even though you didn't see someone, you know it's not rational, and you get flooded with anxiety, you're flooded with what they call intrusive thoughts, even visual images of you hitting someone, killing someone, and you play in your head, you know, you're going to court, prison, etc., everyone hating you, with contamination OCD, which is why a lot of people wash their hands. It could be fear of getting HIV is a big one. Or if you see a small red spot somewhere and you accidentally touch it, instantly your brain is like, that's blood. There's 100% blood, and you start freaking out, and that's why it's painful. You are being bullied and tortured by your brain, and sadly, the media doesn't show that in 8 times out of 10. But yeah, that's what OCD is. So it's a very torturous illness, and it was voted the 10th most debilitating illness in the world. Really? By the World Health Organization, WHO. Yeah. So that includes physical illnesses as well. So physical and mental, it's the 10th most, that's crazy. Yeah.
It's you know, I laughed a little bit when you said about the blood, and I actually kind of regretted it straight away, because I'm like, this is a serious issue, and people need to realize how important this is and how we've been treating it like a trivial thing for so long in the mainstream culture.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, you know, sometimes when people on my podcast are explaining what they've gone through, at times I will have a little laugh as well. And it's not because I'm mocking it. It's because you're like, shit, you can't believe it. Or for me, it's like, okay, yeah, I can relate. And yeah, I went through that. And now that I'm kind of out of it, I can see the funny side. But when you're in it, there's zero humor. But yeah, so in terms of my muse, so I started it. It was never intentioned on being a business. I started it because, you know, what helped me in my hour of need, so to speak, was reading other people's stories on forums and stuff. And that's quite often what led me to certain therapists, led me to certain books, gave me certain strategies that helped me. So I was like, wow, there's something here, right? There's the hope element, which it gave me. Oh shit, you know, I'm not crazy. I'm not the only one. And also, which is a common thing, people with OCD think they are. They think they're nuts. One of the biggest fears is, I don't want to tell my doctor or my friends or my wife or whatever, because what happens if I'm a nutter and they lock me up in a straitjacket and throw away the key? You know, as a kid, that's what stopped me from going to see a doctor. So reading other stories, it gives them that relief. So I created this website where people could write in their stories. Most of the stories are really long, which is awesome. Obviously for SEO and also just for the sufferers reading it. And that's done really well. And then I decided to do the podcast because I was like, now I want to add an extra element. I want to discuss recovery and how to recover, because quite often anyone doing anything around OCD in terms of the media or just other blogs, it's always about the struggle. And I didn't want to focus on that because that's not empowering. Yes, it gives you hope, and my stories do that. But I also wanted to focus on the recovery, you know, speaking to the best therapists in the world, the best researchers, all sufferers that have awesome insight, and just getting, you know, what's helped them recover, or what they've found in their research, and share that with the world. And it's been received really well, mainly because not a lot of people are taking this approach. So I guess my hopes for it is, I've got a post up here which is reach 1 million lives affected by OCD by the 21st of January next year, 2017. I'm not going to say I'm on track. I've got a big number already.
What is the number now?
I can tell you accurately because my Google Doc deleted itself 2 months ago. So I was like, I can't be bothered to go back. But it's over 100,000 now.
How do you measure that again? I think you've told me before. But
yeah, so it's like Yeah, it's unique hits to my website.
Okay.
Podcast listens, YouTube watches, because my podcast is also on YouTube. What else is it? So if anyone retweets, likes, or replies to me on Twitter or Facebook, so you can't retweet Facebook, but you get what I'm saying. I don't count impressions, but if they've generally engaged with it, I count that.
You'd have already hit it if it were impressions, wouldn't you?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I do over 100,000 a month.
So how do you I'm assuming you don't every time you get a retweet, put it on your spreadsheet. Do you tally it up every day or week or?
Yeah, so when I was doing it, it was at the end of every month. And what I'm probably going to do is maybe in a month or so, I'll just kind of combine the last, I can't remember when I started, I need to find the date, but let's say it's 8 months, 10 months, and just do a bulk for that and then start doing each month again.
Yeah.
As opposed to going back and breaking it down.
Cool.
But yeah, the goal is to reach more people even after this, to help more people. And, to do that, I need to be full-time on it. And to do that, I need to make it a business. I've got a Udemy course helping people overcome relationship OCD. It's where OCD targets your relationship, something I struggled with. So I did a Udemy course. It's being received quite well. I've got another course in the pipeline. And I'm releasing a book of some of the best stories. And I've got the Dr. Stephen Hayes, who's the founder of Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, has agreed to do the foreword, which is
so
incredible.
Cool.
Yeah, he's a really good guy.
It's occurred to me that I think some people might be listening thinking, why is OCD relevant to productivity and lifestyle, fitness and business? And I think it's incredibly relevant, and we'll get to that, because I think that real sufferers of OCD and similar ailments, it stifles productivity. And it stops you from being the best who you can be, and we will get into that, but and we'll also get into your business in more depth. Cool. So you've answered the next question actually, which was what are the biggest misconceptions. Right, let's do this. So you currently obviously work similar to me. You work a full-time corporate job in marketing, and then you also manage OCD stories on the side. Have you personally found managing both in your life?
Yeah, it's tough. So I got engaged now as well, which I guess doesn't make a huge difference. The fact that I was living with my partner, and you come home and you've got to do coupley things to keep the romance there. You've also got to look after your house or flat or whatever it is, and then obviously I'm big on sport and fitness. So trying to keep that up, trying to keep somewhat a decent body, and then obviously the corporate job, and then you come home. So what I find the hardest is like willpower, as you know, decision fatigue. So you're at work all day making lots of decisions. Sometimes it's stressful, and you come home and you're just knackered, and you're just like, all I want to do. And I make sure when I get in, I spend an hour, whether it's being in the kitchen with her, whether I'm cooking or she's cooking. So it's burping, and when we eat and stuff, just because it's important, that I give time to my family, which at the minute is my fiance. I don't have any kids at the minute, but then it's like, okay, now I need to get on my business. But the only problem with that is I'm knackered. Got self-doubt in my mind. I'm like, what's the point? I'll just do it tomorrow. And I've bought into that story too much recently. And the more you do it, the less motivation you get. And the more you do it each day, the more you go against that negative self-doubt and self-talk, the more motivated you get, to the point where you come in and you can't help but sit down and work on your muse. So that's where I'm getting at now. And a thing, what's his name? Stephen Pressfield's in The Art of War, I think it's called, where he says, where you feel the most resistance in your life is your sort of true north, and that you need to go to that place for your soul's evolution. So, when I'm resisting sitting down and writing an article or working on OCD stories, whatever it is, or doing a video, I know I've got to do it. Even though it's painful and I don't want to do it and I've got this neggy talk, you've got to do it. And when you do it, you feel like a champion. And the next day you remember that and you do it again. But almost if you falter the next day, okay, it's okay. But if you falter the second day, you're starting to go on a negative downward spiral. And that's the biggest problem is that kind of war within each day after work.
So you find if you're like Yeah, no, I agree with you. If you can keep that momentum, so you do like 2 full weeks where every night after work you're having dinner and then you're just focused on your business, that it almost becomes incredibly easy following that. Or do you still, even after like consistently every day, do you still find it like, oh man, like I'm so knackered, I've got, fatigued decision wise?
No, once I've got in a rhythm, momentum carries me, right? Cheesy, but look at like a train, right? As soon as it's moving, who is it who said what goes in motion stays in motion? Was it Einstein or someone like that? Or Newton? But yeah, what goes in motion stays in motion. I completely agree with that. It's like you're running, right? You're running a 10K and you get to 6 kilometers, you're feeling good, and you rest for 15 minutes. Then you try and do the final 4. You feel like shit because your muscles are seized up and you got tight. And I think it's the same. You take that break for too long, you lose that rhythm, that momentum, and then it's an uphill battle again just to get moving again.
It's like a psychological equivalent to muscle, isn't it? It's the same. Yeah, that's a good answer. You kind of answered the second bit. I was going to ask you kind of keep asking.
People do that on my podcast.
Damn you! No, because you've obviously got a ton on the go, as you said, full-time job, running the podcast and the blog, spending time with Nami, exercising, cycling, basketball, and yet you always make time for friends too. You're probably better than that than I am, I reckon. How do you do that without feeling stressed out? Because I find personally, when I'm trying to do everything, I might get the odd moment where I'll just spaz out and I just like get really angry and I'm really impatient. Like, how do you personally manage the stress when you've got so much going on?
Yeah, I think I do stress out, but I also remember the stuff I'm learning through OCD recovery is that you've sometimes just got to let go. Right? You've just got to let go of everything and just think, oh well, maybe this has set me back, and that's fine. Or you turn it into motivation. Yes, it has set me back. Okay, what I'm going to do now? So if I do see friends too much and all this other stuff's going on and I've been neglecting my sight, then I think, okay, right, well, the next 5 days, I'm not going to plan anything in. I'm not going to see anyone. I'm obviously going to still see my girlfriend and stuff. But other than that, I'm then working on it. And that builds that back up. And then what I do is I learn. I'll say, right, okay, so next week I realise I can't go out and see 2 people next week because that's going to take up too much time. I've got these goals I need to hit. So I only see 1 and I'll push the other person back a week. Yeah. And it's like that. And then, a month later, I make the same mistake again. I see friends too much and do too much sport or whatever. I disagree. Sport's such a value of mine. I don't mind if I do too much of it. But you know what I mean? And it's like, you just learn. It's trying to get...
How do you just on that? So I have the same issue, and what I tend to do is if I'm planning stuff with friends or stuff that I feel is less important right now in this current moment or current kind of time, then I will try and obviously push it back and always give a lot amount of time to what's really important. So in the context of my life, Corporate Warrior, for example. But how is it you do that? Will you actually how do you do that in practical terms? So will you actually block out your diary, or will you just know, like in your head, you'll be like, right, I'm going to do 5 days, and you're just aware of that when it comes to people trying to book your time and that?
Yeah, I think I'm actually quite bad at this. I do know my schedule, and if people will say, if it's a friend I like and they're like, oh, do you want to meet up for a beer in 2 days or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, okay. But it's worth pointing out that I don't really have any friends that aren't doing awesome shit in their lives.
Yeah.
So I know that when I and that's by choice, right? You're the average of the 5 people you spend your most time with. And I realise that even if I go for a beer with them, we're not going to be talking about birds and titties. We're gonna be talking about our businesses or what we're passionate about, or I don't know, I was about to say politics, but that's a lie. But, philosophical ideas or big things. And for me, even if I don't learn anything, I get revitalized and energized by those conversations. And that, the next day I'm so inspired that it pushes me on towards my sort of dreams and goals. So I see it actually as a benefit. But obviously, if I'm doing it too much, then I'm not putting in the effort, and nothing's going to change unless you put in hours. So it's a balance. But yeah, luckily, most of my friends build me up, so I don't mind meeting them for a drink.
Yeah, that's really good advice. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, definitely. Yeah. Okay, so moving on to, I guess, like, young people, or actually not only young people, but just people who are becoming entrepreneurs for the first time, who are looking to start a business. What do you think, in your experience, are the biggest mistakes that first-time entrepreneurs make when starting a business?
Yeah, the first thing that came to my head was chasing money.
Yeah.
And I know, people say you've got to change yourself before you can change the world, or invest in yourself, make your money first. And then when you've got the money, then you can do something. And yeah, I agree with that to some extent, but I also think it's a load of bollocks, because Mother Teresa didn't have fuck all really, and she helped a lot of people. But I think the best advice is follow your bliss, which is what bloody hell, Jeff Thompson gave me. So I have to call him Steve Thompson for some reason. But yeah, Jeff Thompson, BAFTA award-winning screenwriter, author of about 40 books, really nice guy. I emailed him, and this was years ago when I was really trying to find what I was passionate about. And he just said, follow your bliss. And I agree with that. Don't worry about the money. Don't worry about making a difference to anyone's life. Just focus on what makes you not happy, but what gives you bliss. When you're doing it, you just don't notice time. You just don't care. And there comes a point, because I feel bliss when I play basketball, but I don't want to be a professional basketball player. Nor could I. But the point is, like, I enjoy inspiring people, motivating people. I also enjoy building websites and maintaining them from a commercial standpoint. And I'm also really passionate about helping people in their dark places, with OCD, and I relate to them because I have it. So it's kind of like those 3 things came together for me, but it took years of trial and error. And I guess the other point is, do follow your bliss, but also just do something. Because don't try and figure out your ultimate thing now. Just do what you enjoy, follow your bliss. And yeah, it might not be the thing you'll be doing in 10 years, but you might do it for a year. And guess what? You'll learn a shitload doing it, and something else will come off, and you're actually, I should be doing this, and you can do it like that. Or, because, making money could be your bliss, but a lot of people it isn't. I think a lot of people chase the money for the sake of it, realize they want nice things, and that's never going to make you happy. That's never going to give you a meaningful life. Follow your bliss, and keep following it. It will take you down different paths, and eventually you'll find something that you really enjoy, and you might do that for 10 years, and then you follow your bliss, and it will take you somewhere else. Life's fluid. It's not rigid.
So, I guess going back to talking about, I'm interested about how you approach OCD Stories and how you have approached growing and continue to approach growing that business. So when you dedicate an entire day to working on the site, podcast, blog, etc., the whole, obviously it's multi-platform, what has worked the best for you in terms of structuring your day for maximum productivity? Is there a common theme for you where you do a certain thing and you're like, right, I'm going to nail it today because of this or whatever?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. So what I'll do is I have a simple list. I'll write it down on the pad next to me. Simple checklist. I can see it all day. Maybe the key things I want done, and I'll just go about tackling those. I'll try and do an easy one to start with, because I'm someone who likes to feel achievement quite a lot. So what I do is if I try and tick off one of the easy ones first, I'm like, I can tick it, cross it out, whatever, and I'm like, I feel I achieved something. That motivates me. And if I keep that up, whereas if I hit something that I'm always banging my head against a wall, I can't sort it, I can't change it, there's more problems, or maybe fear comes in, then I find I give up too easy sometimes. I give into that, my mind. So for me, it's all about in that when I start to get to that point, it's do something easy again, or a couple little easy things, and it gives me those little achievements, success, and then it motivates me again. The other thing is I'm big on listening to motivational mixtapes on YouTube, and when I'm really like kind of going against resistance, that helps push me through. And then once I'm through it, that in itself becomes my motivation, and you can't get me away from the computer.
Any specific videos that come to mind?
I really like Alan Watts, the philosopher, who's dead now. His people put that to music and stuff. I find that mind blowing. Anything people have done, there's a channel called Absolute Motivation. They've done some really good mixtapes, taken various like speeches and stories and stuff and put them to music. I can obviously only listen to that if I'm not doing something that involves a lot of thinking. If it's more maintenance stuff or doing social, I can have it on in the background. But yeah, I don't have too much in the way of advice in terms of running my day. It's really, for me, it's all about motivation and having a clear outcome at the end of the day, what I want done.
Okay. Do you know, I can't remember that technique. That is it, because with P, it's the one where you do 25 minutes on, 5-minute break. You know what I mean? I'll put it in the show notes. It's like Panorama or something like that. That's just probably completely wrong. But
no, yes, I'm not going to butcher it.
People are probably listening to this thinking, you're an idiot, it's this. But I'll put it in the show notes anyway. But you know the one I mean. Have you used that with any success?
Do you know what? I started using that. This was over a year ago. And I was actually starting to see results. And like anything, you know, we're both avid learners, and we learn so much that we don't give up. I'll speak for me. I don't give myself time to really embed a good habit before I find the next amazing idea and I'm onto that. And I just expect that after a couple of days that habit is now going to be in me, you know, which isn't the case. It takes, they say 21 days, but actually it varies heavily according to the research. Yeah. But
I heard 60 days was from Ty Lopez, I think.
100 and something was what they found in one study.
Oh, right.
But it varies massively. But what was my point?
Talking about no, it's a really good point.
The time, yeah. So it did work though. So you reminded me. I'll make a note, because that did actually help me, because it's, as you say, it's something like 20 minutes on, 5-minute break, I think. Then like 30 minutes on, 10-minute break. Then like 45 minutes on, I think 15 minutes, something like that. And then I think it was after the third cycle, you have like 45 minutes or something off. But that's based on research. I need to give that a go and really give myself time to say I need to do this for 30 days. And what I have when I try and embed a habit like that, I will kind of have post-its around me. I'll write it down anywhere just to trigger in my head, or put something in my calendar each morning to say, don't forget to do this. I
totally agree with you on the subject that, like, when you're, like you say, a voracious learner, you are constantly picking up new strategies, new tools, new tricks, habits, and it does become overwhelming. And that's exactly why, after reading Getting Things Done by David Allen, who when people are listening to this, it will be the interview will be uploaded, is I've actually taken a break and kind of said, okay, I'm really going to learn this system and implement it in my life. And I've heard good and bad things about it, but I'm going to see how it works for myself. And I'm literally, after we finish talking, I'm going to spend my whole day implementing it on my Saturday, which sounds incredibly sad and nerdy, but I get so much fulfillment out of being well organized. And getting things done to be, you know what I'm saying. But it's, I mean, I've already seen some of the benefits, but I'm yet to kind of implement it fully. But it's, I mean, I'll probably be putting a post out, or people can listen to the interview of David to learn more about that. Cool. Okay. Right. So in terms of your goals, so I guess goals within the OCD Stories, you talked about affecting 1 million lives. I'm sure you've got other milestones and other goals perhaps, but tell me about the goals you have right now across everything, or not everything, but so your 5 or 6 main goals that you're focused on and how you're going about achieving those.
Okay, so with goals, I mean, I've got obviously reached 1 million lives affected by OCD. That's one of my main ones. Kind of financial freedom, so being able to do what I want when I want with my time. which would mean at the minute, working full time on this website and stuartralph.com, which is where I also blog about OCD, more from like the research side of things. To me, that is freedom, doing what I want. So that's one of my main goals. I had a whole list. So anyone listening, I recommend listening to a TEDx talk by Steve Can. You'll put the link in the show notes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he basically, I was doing goals for years and I was having some success with them, but they never really motivated me enough. I couldn't stick to the deadlines and stuff. And he flipped it on his head and he made it like a computer game because he's a bit of a geek. He runs nerdfitness.com. But he kind of created this spreadsheet which is like the awesome life of Steve Can. So this is what I did. And in it you put everything you want to do, no matter how trivial, no matter how grand. The really grand or complex things, you call them master quests, and the little goals you just call quests. And when you complete a quest, you get 20 experience points, and when you complete a master quest, you get 100 experience points. And when you hit 100 experience points, you go up a level in your life. So, let's say you're 30 now, you start at level 0, and you do a quest.
I'm not actually 30, I'm 28.
Yeah, I know. I was giving the listeners an example. Anyway, and the idea is, so I was doing that for a couple of years, and that was the only thing that I've really found that ever encouraged me to do my goals. So I'd have goals on there that could be really trivial, like learn how to mix cocktails. So because that was on there, I then, when Groupon came up and there was a voucher for a cocktail mixology course, whatever it's called, I was like, yeah, why not? So let's do it. And that made my life so much richer because I was experiencing things more. Whereas before, I never would have gone on a cocktail mixing course because I'd be like, why am I setting that as a goal? Goals are things that are grand and big, and that's rubbish. Goals can be so tiny. It could be go for a coffee at a famous coffee shop in London, or walk around every park in London. You know what I mean? It could be anything. It could be skydiving for a bit grander. Like the reason I've gone off this a bit, mainly because, again, I don't know what's Google Docs deleted my bloody... Well, I deleted it probably, the spreadsheet in it, and I had to like get it and rebuild it, and since then I haven't been maintaining it as much, but it was motivating me for a couple of years. I will get back on it, but go to China with my mum was one. That was a master quest, and I did that.
That was a great achievement. I remember when I first set that, and it was like a huge mountain to climb in terms of like, accumulating the money to pay for it, and then when you did it, it was like shit. It was cool to see.
Absolutely. And I remember standing on the Great Wall, right? And it's not beautiful, it's a bloody wall, but it's beautiful because it's on loads of mountains and it rolls through the hills and it's incredible. But, apart from all the annoying tourists, which obviously I was one of them, but the thing that hit me was I was visualizing for years. It took me about 4 years to achieve this. I was visualizing like being on the wall and being like, I can't believe I've done it. This is so good that, I've taken my mum here and stuff. And I visualized that every day, not for 4 years, but I did it for quite a while. And then when I stood on that wall in real life, I was like, yeah, it's cool that I've taken her here and China's pretty awesome. But is this it?
No.
And it was like, I'm grateful, don't get me wrong, but what hit me was like, it is the journey, 100%. Yeah. What made my life better was, having to work harder, get promotions, save money, make money from my businesses to pay this, expensive holiday. It's the person you become doing it, and the experiences you have on the way because you're pushing yourself, which is the awesome thing. Actually achieving it, yeah, it's pretty cool, but it's not like trying to get a Ferrari is much better than getting a Ferrari.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I totally 100% agree with that. Obviously, you have to have the goal in order to have the journey, which is the most fulfilling part. And that's the funny thing, because so many people are so obsessed with, obviously with the media and the way it portrays wealth and, I must make £1 million, but little do they know that actually it's the journey toward that is the most fulfilling element, which is very ironic. Cool. Okay. Would you say you're firstly, before we move on, is there any other specific goals that you want to share that you're working on at the moment?
I'm not working on any other than those two. If I can think about it, I can name some of the ones that were on my list. So I only had like 3 materialistic goals out of about 70. It gives you, so one of them, the biggest one was own an Aston Martin, which I'm yet to achieve. But other than that, I didn't really have materialistic goals, but it would be like go to a British Basketball League final, playoff final, which I did last year, and we're going again tomorrow.
Indeed.
That's a simple one. It doesn't cost a lot, but if I didn't put it down, I always found a reason not to go. You know what I mean? Yeah. Found a reason, I don't have the money, or don't have the time, or I'm busy, or it's bullshit. But so it makes you find a way. I'm freezing there. What's some of the other ones? Oh yeah, go to Ibiza and kind of live it up for a week. I'm not like a lad, but I always wanted to do that, and I did it last year. I found some cheap flights on Ryanair and just went. Obviously not by myself.
What about this cycle ride you're doing?
So that isn't actually on my goal. It is now actually, but it wasn't on the goal list. I really felt an urge. I didn't have anything in my life, because I'm not playing for a team at the minute in basketball. I didn't have anything driving me physically. I was doing HIIT, but I didn't have anything driving me physically, and I missed that. Like when I was playing for a team, I'd be training really hard, even by myself. Whenever I could, I'd be shooting around, working on my foot speed and stuff like that, and stamina. And so I was like, I need something, and I decided to cycle 100 miles for OCD UK, which is one of the UK charities for OCD, obviously. And actually a key highlight to that is actually I was really naive about how long 100 miles is and how hard cycling. At the minute I'm only up to like 30 miles in training, but even doing that, when you throw in a few hills, how difficult that is when your body isn't at the minute shaped for cycling. It's shaped for short, sharp bursts of energy, which is basketball. Yeah. So even doing 20 miles today, it was painful. But the key highlight for me is I love that I have naivety at times, because if I understood how hard it would have been, I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
And my life is so much more enjoyable now because I'm doing it, because I have to cycle 3 times a week minimum. I have to, push my mind again to allow my body to go further, because my mind wants to quit when I'm going up a steep hill. But I have to go against that. And my life has always been better when I've been intensely training for something, because it pushes me. And I'm grateful for that. And if I wasn't naive, I wouldn't have done it. And I would have stayed in my little bubble and lived a smaller life. So, sometimes people are taking the piss out of my naivety, but it's a blessing in my eyes.
Definitely is. Would you say you have a Type A personality? I mean, I think you do, but would you say...
So what's Type A again?
Type A is where you're like very ambitious and quite aggressive with that ambition. Well, in a nutshell.
Yeah, I'm not like bang in Type A, but I'm definitely closer to that than I guess Type B is the other one.
Yeah, I assume that's... I don't know if that's quite like the exact opposite.
No, I think I have heard that, yeah. I'm an overachiever in the sense of I always need to be achieving. I always need to be striving for more. And don't get me wrong, I'm really grateful for what I have, and that's something, a lesson I'm always trying to learn every day is, be grateful for just having a pulse, you know what I mean? Because what's the other option? Death. Right now, I'll stick with life, thanks. Maybe in 8 years, death might be more appealing, but... So yeah, I definitely want to achieve. I definitely grow. I feel good when I grow. But I'm not ruthless with it. I'm not like, I won't sacrifice someone else's happiness for the sake of my growth. I've become more, through meditation and stuff, more about just being here and now and enjoying the little things. But as long as I'm overall in a week, as long as I'm improving, I allow myself time just to chill and relax and not achieve anything and just be. Because that's heavily important to your happiness and just meaning and stuff.
Do you think that, because I look at you and I look at me, and obviously we are highly ambitious, with that balance with unplugging and taking time out. But, I know very few people who are willing to do a full-time job and especially a stressful one and a challenging one, and then come home and put hours into, fledgling business and trying to grow that. So that seems very rare to me. Do you think that's nurture or nature? So do you think that's just wired into you, or do you think that is conditioned? Or both?
Nah, so I got that.
Sorry,
thanks for explaining though, mate. No, the reason I was thinking is because the whole nature nurture thing, like, I don't have a massive opinion on, because I'm just like, I am what I am type of thing. Who gives a shit if I was born with it or I've worked at it? But for sake of debate, I think it is both. I think naturally some people are inclined to it, but also I believe you can become that way. Same as I think by nature am a night owl, but I know through nurture I can become, what's the opposite? Morning person? What's the actual word?
I don't know.
Morning owl.
Morning person.
And I can do that through discipline. I've become a morning person. I love the morning. I just find it really hard when I don't have discipline to get up. So again, you can use nurture. But yeah, ultimately, like, if people are happy just going to work 9 to 5, having their family, and they're generally happy doing that and doing their hobbies at the weekend, they don't need to be anything else. They're winning at life, right? Yeah. But if they're not happy, they're not doing something that fulfills them, they're not, I don't know, spend enough time with the family, not happy in that area, they're not doing hobbies or trying new things, and they're generally not happy with life, then they need to become an overachiever. It's on them to think, as Tom, it's not his quote, but I'll quote him, your mate Tom says, don't wish you were easier, wish you were better. If things aren't how you want it to be in life,
shout out to Tom Cameron there.
Yeah, do something about it, you know what I mean? And that's, if someone's got mental health issues, that's really hard to sometimes do something about it. Mm-hmm. But just do what you can, try your hardest. But yeah, so I think that's the thing, I used to be like, and I know you were, where if we saw someone who wasn't trying to achieve in life and they were just doing the, graduating, getting a job, trying to climb the corporate ladder, popping out a kid, getting married. See, I did the kid for marriage, and then, having a nice retirement and seeing a few places around the world. And I used to look down, maybe look down on them, just be like, oh God, muggles sort of thing. But now I'm like, no, who gives a shit? If they're happy doing that, they're winning. They're winning. And I think that's the thing. But the thing is, if you're not happy, you need to wake up, get out of that matrix, and do something about it. Unfortunately, a lot of people never will. And as it says in The Alchemist, sometimes it's not on us to try and wake them up, because we can do them more harm. Because even though you show them that a better life is out there for them, they might not have the self-belief or motivational tools to actually go and achieve it. And in that sense, you're just causing them more pain.
That's really an interesting way of looking at it. Okay, so I just want to talk about, just actually this is kind of an extension to that. So what is your opinion on the person that executes something like the 4-hour work week, literally? So Tim Ferriss has offered that. And, I we've both seen it. And we've both got friends who have built cash flow businesses where they could probably get away. Sorry?
No, sorry, yeah.
Yeah. They could probably get away with just 4 hours of work, maybe even less than that, and still make very good income, or a very good income relative to their outgoings.
Yes.
So that is possible, and anyone who tells me it's not, I've seen it with my own eyes. It is.
Yeah, I've seen it many times.
Yeah, and the truth is that it doesn't obviously fulfill most people, because actually you don't want to be idle. You'll just want to create more value and do other things. You don't want to be just sitting lying on a hammock on the beach all the time, although you might want to for a little bit. So you got that whole focus and goal versus the kind of Gary Vaynerchuk 100 hours a week. And a mass respect for him, and I'm not saying like, oh, he's going to burn himself out, because actually I think that he's wired for that, and that is he'd drive himself mad if he didn't do that, know. So what do you think about that kind of stuff? Like, what I want to know your thoughts about the person that says, oh, I just want to build a business, a cash flow business, and then I want to spend 4 hours a week managing it or less, versus the guy who's like, I'm going to work every hour of the day.
I think it's what works for the person, but it all comes down to one thing, which is meaning. So yes, the 4-hour work week is great. And if your goal is, I want to work 4 hours a week and have $2,000 a month, pounds sterling, let's say, to live on, awesome. That's incredible. If you can then go travel the world, experience life for a couple of years, and you do that, right? And you travel the world a few times, and then you still got your 4-hour work week thing. You still make enough to live on. You're just going to keep traveling the world. For most people, that's going to become very meaningless very soon. And so it's like, yes, you got a 4-hour work week. That's incredible because you bought yourself freedom. Now, with that freedom, what are you going to do to have a meaningful life? Because I think that's the main goal in life. It's not happiness, because happiness is fleeting. It's a trap. It's a lie. It's a false promise. Most people will only be happy for 10 seconds a day. But a meaningful life is one we have control over. So it could be, I don't need to chase any more money. I'm not money hungry. So actually one day a week, I'm really passionate about, young homeless people. So I'm going to go work with a young homeless charity like Centrepoint here in the UK. Or
plug.
Or I raised money for them last year. No
brag.
No brag. Well, I actually failed the challenge. So it's more of an insult to me. But I'm stumbling for examples here. It could be like, actually, I'm really passionate about figs. So although it's never going to make me any money, I'm just really going to start a blog and spend a couple of days a week just talking about figs, different varieties, different countries, because that gives me meaning. I feel that if I can help someone else with their fig situation, then that's gonna inspire me. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, yes, 4-hour work week is great. If you really want to, because you've got to put in more than 4 hours a week to get it going, but then once it's up and running, it's 4 hours a week. And if you want to invest that time, you can get it working, that's incredible. But ultimately think about what is a meaningful life to you and go do that. And Gary Vaynerchuk's side of things, he's living a meaningful life. He's driven by legacy. And so to him, he doesn't mind working 15 hours a day because his life is meaningful. And because of that, he's arguably happy, and he's many other things other than happy. There's many emotions. But you know what I mean?
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's what works for you.
Yeah, definitely. I think
I'm kind of a mix of the both.
Yeah, I mean, both of us have started blogs and online businesses over the years, different types, different entities, with the aim to help people whilst making a living. But it took both of us a while to land on what we're doing now.
Yes.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think it took 4 or 5 years of playing around before we both went, pow, like this is it, and the feedback was crazy?
It's it's a good question. I mean, most people don't just stumble upon what they want to do. Like, when I was a kid, I wanted to be a fighter pilot. I wanted to be in the army. Thank God I didn't do either of those. Not knocking any soldiers out there. Just, I don't want to die just yet. That's really bad, actually. But you know what I mean? You're putting yourself actually in the firing line, so it's a huge risk.
It's a high risk
career, but obviously a meaningful one.
Yeah.
But anyway, what was my point? So again.
So like, I guess because what a basic question is, we've both landed on platforms that are doing well, and we're passionate about, and we're creating more and more value in those areas. But we've had a lot of trial and error leading up to this. And Robert Greene, 48 Laws of Power guy, and Mastery. He said something about, in your 20s, don't settle on anything, just experiment. And then in your 30s, decide what you want to do. And Steve Jobs said something similar. He said, he did calligraphy course. He didn't see the point in it. He didn't see any use for it, but he enjoyed it, which goes back to what I was saying about following your bliss earlier. And he did all these other things he joined. And he said, everyone's seen the commencement speech, but when you look back, you can actually join the dots and realize calligraphy helped him with the font type of Max, which helped them be quite successful. And so when you look at it like that, it is just about experimenting, following your bliss. And it's the same for us, and who knows, maybe in a year we won't even be doing this. Hopefully we will, but
you don't know. And I think it's about fine tuning, trying lots of things, and you keep narrowing it down till you find something you just really want to sink your teeth into. And there's nothing wrong, because it's not like we failed at those other things, because we had some success. But we had a lot of success when you consider actually we learned so much. So much of the success I'm having now is because of the things I learned by all those other things. Yeah. So in that sense, there's no failure. It's all a learning curve. Some people will just decide from a young age, and that's cool. But
yeah, I mean, you do get those rare examples where people who are very young just nail it, and it's so bloody rare.
Yeah.
And people feel so much pressure, like at the age of like 20, especially when they start getting into their late 20s. Oh, I've got to figure out what I've got to do. Bullshit. Like, do what excites you. Like, don't worry about if you don't know your, and I'm doing bunny ears here, like purpose, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just saying what you're saying. Follow your bliss, and I kind of interpret that like follow what you're really interested in. Follow what gets you excited and what gets you in the zone.
What energizes you.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and don't worry about the money. That money will come. Money's a byproduct of just adding value to people. And just start. Choose a medium, blog. Do podcasts, do YouTube videos, Facebook videos, probably even growing even faster now. This Snapchat, maybe, choose a medium that works for you and just start. And it will, do it for 6 weeks as an experiment. And if you get bored, then do something else. But I think that's, I think you raised some good points there. So, your podcast, which is growing amazingly fast and has grown much faster than mine, we've spoken about why we think that is, and you've got some thoughts on that. But I'd like you, if you don't mind, just to go through why you think your podcast has grown so fast. Maybe you could start off by giving some figures, because I think they're really impressive in terms of the monthly downloads, and then give some reasons as to why you think that is.
Yeah. So I'm doing, last month I did just over 4,500 listens, predominantly on iTunes. But if you add YouTube into that, you can add about another 2,500 watches on top of those listens. So I mean, what's that? 7,000 roughly at the minute. Yeah. I did terrible at school in maths, as you can tell.
I was going to help you out, but I couldn't remember the first number. So
yeah, whatever. So about 7,000 a month at the minute, and it's growing each month. It's slowing a little bit, but obviously that's understandable, because it was going up 100% month on month for a few months. But yeah, so the reason for that is there's only really 2 other podcasts similar to mine out there. One's really, really good. They're both really good, but one's not being updated at all since July last year. The other one does get updated, but they focus more on kind of getting sufferers on, hearing their story, whereas I'm more about getting the therapists on and focusing on recovery. And I think, I don't know how many they're doing, and I'm not in competition to them, because we're both offering a valuable service, and I hope they continue to grow as well. But I think people gravitate to mine because they're in a desperate place in a lot of situations, and they want solutions, they want help, they want to recover, they don't want to be a slave to their mind. And when I look back, when I was in that place, I consumed every article, I went and listened to every podcast, I watched every YouTube video, and that's, I think, why unfortunately people are desperate, and I am hopefully sharing some good insights, and because of that they're listening.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing, is it's the emotional trigger to looking for your kind of content.
Yeah. They've got a problem and they need to fix it ASAP.
Yeah, and what else do you think? Obviously, that's probably the key contributor to the growth. It's just picking the niche that you've picked. But what other things have been massive contributors? So would you say, for instance, Twitter or Instagram has been the second most powerful generator or contributor? Or
Yeah, I want to clarify one thing now. I didn't pick this niche because I thought, they're desperate and I can help them and there's a need. I did it. I didn't have any idea on how. I didn't think it would be as successful as it is, basically. I did it because I wanted to help people. That's it. I didn't have any ideas of it being big. I just wanted to help people, and I enjoyed it. And it's ironic that I'm having success off that. Not ironic. You know what I It's cool. It's like, just follow, do something that you enjoy, do it because you like it or love it, and it will work. Or even if it doesn't, at least you're doing something you enjoy instead of chasing the money and being miserable as fuck. Obviously you got bills to pay, but so what was the question, that last one?
Other things that contributed to the growth.
Like social media, massive. I'm big on Twitter, I'm big on Facebook, I'm big on Instagram. For the podcast though, Twitter's definitely the main one. Just because finding people using the hashtags like OCD support, OCD community, you can really find people, follow them, they follow you back and stuff, and you can engage with them, and the community is very engaged, and I do get a lot of shares and interaction and people telling me about the podcast. So being on top of social media is huge. People underestimate it at times, but if you're everywhere, people have to take notice. And they can't realize, this is just some weird podcast. They think, wow, if all these people are liking it, that must mean it's valuable. Or let me have a listen. And I always obviously post the latest podcast, tag it on my profile page on Facebook, on Twitter. I can't do it on Instagram. So anyone who follows me that week, I get quite a lot of followers, they will see that. I will tweet out throughout the week. I don't plug it as hard as I could because I focus on more the written stories through social media. But that also helps, from an SEO point of view. People are finding me through the stories. They then see that I got a podcast and they start listening that way. So definitely content's a huge one.
Is there any specific words that you get searched? You got a lot of searches from, like keywords?
It really long tail. So it could be OCD contamination recovery. I'm trying to think. I'd have to dig it out, but there's some real long ones. Yeah. I'm not ranking for the OCD or OCD recovery yet. But
is that because that's so competitive online?
Yeah, very much so. And in time, I'll get there. But Google's really started to lift you're in the sandbox for the first sort of 4 to 6 months, where basically you don't get much traffic, because they do that to stop sort of scammy websites and scammy affiliate marketers just get hit in the rankings quickly and making money. So they do that to make sure that actually, he or she has been posting a lot of content for the last 6 months. They're probably legit. Let's take them out of this quote unquote sandbox and start giving them traffic.
Is it that I'm testing your marketing knowledge now, but is it a long tail search is far more common now than they were a year ago or 2 years ago?
Long tail searches have always been there. Long tail search is literally, as you know, just I'm a corporate warrior and I'm looking to get fitter. That's a long tail search, right? It's more like a sentence.
Yeah, more specific. They're trying to find a specific thing.
Oh, okay. Actually,
because give you a better example. 10 years ago, someone would have gone. No one would have typed in oh God, trying to think of a good example. Something really detailed, to get a specific thing, maybe about exercise, maybe about building muscle, no one would type in how to build muscle in my calf doing using kettlebells, because they wouldn't bring up a specific search. Whereas today, in some cases or a lot of cases, you can type in a long tail search like that, and you'll get an article where it's actually specifically about a specific question. I think that's really cool.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've never seen any research around this, but from looking at it from a top level type of thing, that could also be because there's way more content out there now. A, people have to be more precise to find what they want, and B, because there's more content, they know if they're precise, they get a result that matches it. Whereas 10 years ago, if they were precise, they probably would have got some bollocks that didn't match their need. Whereas now they know if they are specific, they will, in most cases, get an answer that's helpful. So that's probably why the psychology's changed. But yeah, it'd be interesting to know.
Tell me about the specifics of your social media, how all the platforms you're on. You mentioned some already. How you manage that and your frequency, how often you post, and then when you take time to actually sit down on Twitter and start responding and engaging with people.
Yeah, so
I can repeat some of that if you need me to.
No, I got it. So I'm trying to think which way to tackle it first. So I'm on Facebook, obviously, as my business. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and more recently Snapchat. Snapchat because for months Gary Vaynerchuk has been banging on about it. He said it's going to be the biggest social media platform or tool, whatever, by 2019, which is an incredible statement. And he's usually right when he makes these claims. He has been in the past. Yeah. So in that sense, I was like, I might as well give in. But to be honest, I've been quite bad at that. So with Snapchat, it's literally, whenever you get a second, point out the camera. It's only 10 seconds. Do a video. Give a bit of advice. Share an insight. We could literally do a Snapchat now of us talking, recording this podcast, and it's a great way of promoting it.
Cool.
But I'm still learning Snapchat. So with Instagram, I post one picture a day. So I'll create an image. I've got this app called Over, and I think it's cost me it's free, but to buy the editions, it's cost me a couple £. But that gives me loads of stock photos, like really cool.
Is that Over, OVER?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah. It's got a load of cool stock photos. And each day you get free, what they call artwork, which is like fonts. And they give it in, it could be like, chase your fears, go on an adventure. So what I'll do is I'll put that on one of those images. I'll put my website logo at the bottom right, and then I'll post it and I'll write a caption around it, explain how that can help someone recover from OCD or live a good life. And I usually post that in the evening on the way home from work using net time, which sort of Tony Robbins calls no extra time. So it's sort of dead time. So that's Instagram. And then what I do is anyone, I don't get notified on my phone of Instagram, but what I do is I go on it maybe an hour later, 2 hours later, and just check, has anyone left a comment? If they have, I'll respond to them. The key is I respond to everyone on social media. There's a couple tweets I won't, because they're very much like, hey, thanks for the follow, and I'm like, I won't sometimes go back to that. But if it's a question or praise or something like that, I always respond. So
thanks for the follow is such a redundant thing to say, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fair enough. If people are generally doing it because they're being nice, that's awesome, right? But the most people do it because it's like a marketing tactic.
Exactly.
And because of that, I kind of treat everyone as a marketing tactic. Unless they're very specific, like, hey, thanks for the follow, man. I've been listening to your podcast for ages. And I'm like, and then I'll go, oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much for the support, whatever. So with Facebook, that picture I create for Instagram, I also put on Twitter. I also put on Facebook. So I repurpose it. But with Facebook, I'll occasionally write, what are you doing this weekend? Or I'll write a quote that's maybe inspiring, or I'll put the podcast on. So I put the podcast each week. And then on Twitter, again, I just, once a week I'll sit down and I'll write sort of 3 tweets a day, and I'll schedule them using Manage Flitter, but you can also use Hootsuite, TweetDeck.
Yeah.
And I schedule them. So each day, Twitter, I'm putting sort of 3 posts on.
Yeah.
And they're not really asking for anything. It's always offering value, which is Gary's idea of obviously jab, jab, right hook, give, then ask. But I think the thing that's really worth noting is the way social media is going at the minute, especially Facebook, is towards video.
Okay.
Facebook is unbelievably addictive in the way they've created video, and they're really going to rival YouTube in a few years. So what I do now is, if I'm on a cycle ride, or even if I'm at my desk and I suddenly get some inspiration, I'll go on Twitter and I'll start recording a video and I'll post that. And then what I do is that then saves to my phone. I'll then go to Facebook and post that same video on Facebook. And
so you do that manually, so that video is saved in your...
Yeah, it's all manual for me pretty much, except for the schedules I do on Twitter. Yeah. But video is where I'm getting some of the best response from people. And also you're building a connection because they see your face, they hear your voice, they realize you're a human being, and they get emotionally connected and they like you. It's how we make friends, right? So that's been a huge one for me, video, and I'm trying to do more of that. And there's overcoming some anxiety there around, recording a video.
I definitely have some of that, yeah.
Yeah, but other than that, so yeah, I go on Twitter a few times a day, just check if anyone's messaged me and respond to them always, asking questions. And then YouTube, it's kind of a social network. So although I post all my podcasts on YouTube, I get a lot of comments. So I always go on and answer those comments. I also have my own personal YouTube channel, which I do sort of more advice-based videos around OCD. And again, I get a lot of questions there. And there's one video I've got at the minute, which is about 4,000 views, but it's really resonated with people, and I'm at like 100 comments or something.
Wow, that's
and
crazy.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and I respond to each person. If you look, you see me under each thing, and not many people do that on YouTube. They don't take the time to respond to everyone. And for me, until it becomes a point where it's not manageable, I'm going to do my best to do it, because that's what's, I think, growing my brand and business, and more than anything.
Such a good point. Yeah, I think totally spot on. Like you scale it when it when you have to, like you outsource, or you, I guess, cut back on some of that stuff only when it makes sense to you. But at the start, when you've got the bandwidth, I think it's
the thing.
It's a useful way to spend time.
I think, when I go full time on this, and let's say it's bigger and bigger and bigger, and it takes up more and more of my time, I'm going to make a point where I schedule an hour a day to do social media, to interact with people, because it's so important. It's the most human way in a digital world. It is through social media.
Yeah. I mean, I don't want to sound like a fucking cyborg. Like I, like you, get a huge reward out of engaging with my audience, which I do on different platforms.
That's why we do it, right?
Yeah, well, exactly. I mean,
I don't do it to hear myself talk. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, it's way more fulfilling than any other outcome that comes from these things. Although that being said, obviously, I'm nowhere near as active on social media as you are, and I need to be. So,
but I mean, the other thing is, like, I respond because I enjoy it and because I build connection. But even if you take it from a business side of things, it's good business. And the reason it's good business, and this is a good example, because I get quite a few emails a week from either my personal personal videos or the OCD stories, people asking me questions, asking for help or whatever. And when I respond, they come back and they say, "Thanks for responding." Or in their email, no, that was no good. But in their email, before I even respond, they say, "I'm writing this. Hopefully, you can respond. I understand if you don't have the time or whatever." The reason people say stuff like this is because no one ever responds to them. Like, I've contacted quite a few people before; they haven't responded to me, and the people that have responded to me, I now love them. Like, I've got so much time for them. Like, I rate them. Because they're human, I'm like, they're humble, they've got time for me, they're willing to invest in me, and because of that, I'm going to invest in them. And so I always get back to my emails, YouTube, Twitter, whatever it is, because when people see you've got time for them, they've got time for you. And I do that because I enjoy it, but from a business point of view, that's golden.
Which platform is generating the most traffic to the website at the moment?
Twitter.
Is it a massive difference between that and, say, like, I'm assuming second would be Instagram or something like that?
No, Instagram's terrible.
Right.
Yeah, for driving. It's great for brand building.
Right.
But yeah, it's not great for direct, because you can't have links in the post. You can only have a link on your bio.
Do you cross-pollinate social media though? So do you have
a little bit?
I don't know how. I mean, I'm not an expert in Instagram, so can you make it so that your public profile on Instagram lists some of your other places where you're present?
You can only have one link, I think. So some people will put like their Facebook, and you can put up a post on Instagram saying, "Hey, follow me on Facebook. I'm doing a competition,"
right?
Or whatever. Because you need something to drive. They need a reason to go to Facebook. They're not just going to do it because you say, "Hey, follow me." Some people will, but so yeah. I mean, I'm not very good at cross-pollinating, and to be honest, I don't do it massively because I just focus on being native and building the specific audience. Some people don't want to be on Facebook. Some people don't want to be on Twitter. Some people don't want to be on Instagram. Some people don't want to be on any of those. They want to be on Snapchat. So it's about meeting them where they're at.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
So I'm a bit confused. So how does Instagram? So you say it builds a brand, yes. But are you saying that it doesn't? You don't actually send people from Instagram to your hub, which is the website. Like you don't get many people do that.
It could be something to do with Google Analytics not tracking Instagram properly.
Yeah.
But I don't see much traffic from Instagram. But that's also because I don't ask a lot. I don't say, "Hey, I'll put up." I don't really push my podcast on Instagram, which is actually quite bad. For me, Instagram's more putting these nice quotey lifestyle images on, and I get interaction that way. People comment, and then I build a relationship with them there. Yeah. So I guess I should start pushing the podcast and stuff, and maybe I will see an uplift. But I do talk about the podcast occasionally, and I'll say, hey, go to iTunes or Stitcher or whatever and type in OCD and you'll find me. So in that sense, that's untrackable.
Yeah, I'm just struggling to understand the benefits of building a brand. That's just building a brand. Like I know a lot of the, Gary Vaynerchuk and that talk about how important this is, but I don't fully understand it myself. So when you say Instagram's great for building a brand, why is that beneficial toward you reaching your goal of reaching 1 million lives, helping 1 million lives, or making enough money to supplant the full-time income from your job?
Well, from the reaching 1 million lives, if someone comments on my post or likes it, that's adding to my tally.
Right. Okay. So it's the value in the content itself.
Exactly. And also I'm there because there are people there that need help that aren't on Facebook, on Twitter, or don't listen to my podcast. And they may never get engaged in my thing. But the reason I started this was to help people. And that's what I'm always going to do, even if there's no money in it for me. And I feel when you live like that, A, you're happier, and B, the money will come anyway. So you don't need to worry. Just the more value you give, the more you'll get eventually. Give because you want, but you'll get anyway. It's the law of the universe. The Bob Burg, the Go Giver. Bob Burg's also got OCD, and he wrote The Go Giver, and I had him on the podcast. Really nice guy, but in that book he talks about a struggling salesperson, and this guy has several mentors, and he learns various lessons basically on giving massive value, giving more than you get, giving of your time, going out of your way. And when you do that, eventually you'll get anyway. Maybe not from them, but from someone else they talk to, or they mention you, or they post something. And that's unmeasurable, and that's the goal of social media. That's the benefit of it, is you don't know the real impact of one response or one tweet. You know what I mean? You can't track that. And you've got to know that it's happening, even if you can't see it.
Right. Do you get much engagement on Instagram?
Yeah, quite a lot.
And then you can...
Probably more than anything else.
Oh, really? So you can reply to those comments, right?
I probably get more comments on Twitter, but in terms of likes and stuff like that, it's far more easy to do it on Instagram. People are more liberal with their likes on Instagram than they are, say, with Twitter or Facebook.
Right. Okay.
But I have a closer relationship with people on Facebook and Twitter than I do on Instagram. I don't know why that is, but I am starting to build a close relationship with a few people, because I think the people that are on Twitter and Facebook for me also either read the stories or follow my podcasts, so they have more of a personal relationship. With Instagram, that's my fault. I'm not doing a good job on Instagram.
No, I see your point though. Maybe Instagram's more, the audience is more like, I don't know, a fleeting attention,
Yes. Yeah, you've got to grab them in that moment. But guess what, if I'm pumping out good shit and they're liking it, eventually they might be on iTunes and they stumble across it. Oh, that's that guy on Instagram. Oh, you know what I mean? Because they like me, because I responded to them and I gave a shit about them. Yeah. They're going to follow me. And even if they don't, as I said, they talk to someone. They talk to a friend in a forum. They tell someone about. You know what I mean? It's immeasurable, but it works.
Just talking about your website for a second. You use WordPress, don't you?
Yes.
I was looking at it yesterday, and I love your layout. I love the website. It's really clean, and it's really clear where everything is. I think a lot of websites, it's not very clear where the different categories are. And it's the sidebar, and it's just and it's nice, and I can see how you've kind of optimized it for certain aims you have. What is the theme you're using, if you don't mind saying, for that?
Yeah, I don't mind saying. I can't remember what it is though. But I can tell you where I got it. Theme Forest.
Yeah.
So theme. Actually, I'm not going to give you my theme because I don't want 100 sites out there using it. But I get a Theme Forest, and for $30-$50, it's all in American. $30-$50, you can get an incredible theme done by some awesome designers, and you just buy it, add it to GoDaddy or whoever you're hosting with, and you're up and running. And then you just edit it, add an image, change a few things. Over time, I've done a lot more to it now, but to start with, I didn't. I kept it simple because it was about the content. People can focus too much about having a sexy looking website. You can spend a bit of time deciding on, how you want users to navigate around the site. That is important. Yeah. It wasn't so much for me because mine was about the stories. But if you're doing a more salesy website, think a little bit about how they're going to navigate, because that is important. That will lower bounce rate and drop out from the site.
Yeah. John, I was just thinking, actually, just made me think. What's the status with Morally Marketed these days? Is that just do you still contribute to that, or is that just kind of dormant at the moment?
No, yeah. So Morally Marketed is a website I created around the belief that marketing puts out values, they put out messages, and we as consumers, as people in society, adopt those values, whether we realize it or not. And I created that as a way of like trying to sort marketing to make it a bit more moral. It was like banging my head against the wall, but I still really value the mission. And maybe one day I'll write a book about it, I'll talk about it, but it wasn't fulfilling me as like my core muse. Yeah. But anyway, so where it's at now, I don't do anything to it. It's still live, morallymarketed.com, some great articles on there. But yeah, I don't do anything with it. If someone was really interested in that area,
because I just realised I linked to that from Corporate Warrior, but I should probably change that to link to the OCD stories, if you agree.
Yeah, cheers.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, right. Okay, we talked about social media. What tools do you use on a day-to-day basis to run your business? So what tools do you really rely on? Physical and like software, virtual.
Okay, physical.
Mac, notepads, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Envelopes. I sell OCD sort of wristbands. You are not your OCD wristbands. Yeah. It says I am not my OCD. It's got the OCDstories.com. I sell those, so I have to post them in envelopes. So that's something I use. I also use notepads. So I'm a guy, luckily, who has a lot of ideas, good and bad, and I always write them down. I will use Notepad on my phone as well, but I prefer a physical notepad. There's something very pleasing about it. Moleskine, ideally. Again, there's something about Moleskine, and that could just be a branding thing. I'm not above that, but they've got me over a barrel.
Totally, mate, I'm the same. It totally con me. I've got like 7 Moleskines. Like,
I just feel so good.
£15 a pad.
Yeah. What else do I use on a daily basis? Pens, pencils. I'm joking. In terms of software, though, obviously, like manage Flitter, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. Sometimes I'm looking at my phone. I use a thing called Mood Map. It's an app.
Yeah.
And it allows you each day you track your mood, and it reminds you each day to tell. And all it is you go in and you click one button. It could be I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling happy, I'm enthusiastic, I'm in love, I'm da 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 da, and you just tap a button and it tracks you. And over time you can see your mood. And the goal of that is I'm doing it from an OCD point of view, but you also do it from the last couple of weeks compared to the 2 previous weeks, I've been quite moody. And it reminds you, why is that? And you can start to ask your questions. I need to do something. Why is it? Is it my job? Is it my relationship? Is it a friend? Whatever. Yeah. Over is the other app I use. Uber I use probably more than I should. But sometimes, my time is way more...
is amazing.
Than the TfL, Transport for London, or bear with me. I use Google Drive app a lot on my phone. Because that's where I manage like podcast guests, notes, analytics. I don't use it as much. Aweber stats, so that my email software. And obviously my podcast app is probably the thing I use the most. I'm a big consumer of information, and I prefer to get it through audio than sometimes reading.
So podcasts, as in the iTunes app.
Yes, the podcasts. The one that comes with the iPhone.
Hang on one sec. Let me just check. Do you use hang on a minute, Overcast?
No.
But I've told you about that, haven't I?
You have, yeah.
Yeah, I've already plugged that on the page enough, but I think it's amazing just because it's the productivity nerds podcast dream, because it cuts out all the silences between people speaking. So I'll list that as well. But sorry, go on.
No, that's it. I think. Yeah, what about you? Is there any you use that I haven't mentioned?
Yeah, probably stuff that you use. Would you use Evernote?
No.
You don't use Evernote? Interesting. Okay.
No. I'm bad at organisation like that.
No, that's fine. And I absolutely 100% rely on Evernote for everything. So I use it for podcasting. I use it for day job. I use it for managing. I have lists of like restaurants I want to go to. I even have like a list of. Someone made me a cocktail. This barman made me an amazing cocktail in Iceland, and it was called a Risky Sour, and it's got like amaretto and egg whites and all sorts in it. Ugh. And it tasted amazing, and I thought, wow, this is so, this is Iceland, this is so unique and whatever. And then I came back to the UK and I told people about it, and they're like, yeah, that's like, everyone knows how to make that cocktail. Like, that's not that special. But so anyway, that was a bit of a sidetrack. But I have I've started a list of those because I think, that would be cool. Like one day, maybe if I have some friends over and I feel like doing a cocktail night, or I have a bar in a future home or something, that I could just like pull up a list of cocktails and then actually make them. I have like the ingredients and the recipe. So I have that in so many different contexts.
Yeah,
I have it for restaurants. I have it for books to read, documentaries to watch, and I love the fact that Evernote, you can just put these things in notes and then you can index it, so I can just search anything and it will just pop up.
Yeah, that's good.
So yeah, super useful. But I think quite a lot of people use Evernote, but I don't use too many, to be honest. I kind of, as you know, I'm kind of on Twitter. I'm not as active as I should be. I use Facebook quite a bit, so my Facebook page is definitely the main corporate warrior kind of interaction on social media. God, really put me on the spot now. I'm trying to think what else I use. There's probably other stuff, but this is about you, not about me. So we'll save that for another time when I do like a monologue or something. So you mentioned a good, interesting thing earlier about that you're good at generating ideas, and you are. Like, I definitely think that's one of your strengths. Is you come up with so many cool ideas. Like, if I tell you I've got a problem doing something, you'll come up with like 20 ideas, and it's one of those funny things where it's like, and you probably relate to this, is that when you're trying to deal with your own stuff and overcome some of your own challenges, you're shit at trying to generate ideas for your own stuff, but amazing for generating ideas for other people. But I'd like to understand, like, for you, in what situations do you generate your best ideas? So when you're like, I'm assuming like maybe when you're cycling, I bet you come up with a ton of ideas then. Like what kind of different situations do you find yourself in where you generate tons of ideas for your business?
Yeah, in sport I do get quite a few. Not as many as you think, but it is a place where I get, it's because you've obviously got endorphins and stuff rushing through your body, and sometimes adrenaline, and that can give me ideas. Not my best, but decent ideas. The shower is a good place. I get a lot of ideas in the shower.
That's very true.
I think a lot of people do.
Yeah.
What was the other one? Oh, that was it. When going back to momentum, as we were talking earlier, when I'm in momentum, it could just be that evening and I've done a couple hours and I'm buzzing because I'm making progress and I'm helping people. And when I'm in that place, as soon as I lay down, my mind won't shut up. And I just start getting loads of ideas, and I just start getting my phone out and jotting them down, otherwise I can't sleep. And then the next day, I wake up and I'm like, that was a terrible idea. But some of them are actually genius, and I stick with it. But one thing I found, is the quote, which is, you chase two rabbits, both will get away. And I get a lot of ideas, or shiny objects, right? And you run towards that shiny object, but
beware of the shiny object.
Exactly. It's about being more realistic about those ideas and thinking, okay, which one of these is maybe the quickest to do, or more importantly, which one is the one that's going to push me closest to my goal? And that's what I've started to do. And now I've got two of those goals, the book and the other Udemy course, and I'm just nailing those out, and I've got deadlines on them to get them live. And I know that once I've done that, that's off my head. I have more space. And I think when you clear your head and you allow yourself more space, you can come up with more ideas.
Did you, in 1 second, I'm just going to plug the Mac in. It's starting to run low on juice. Oh, wow. My legs are a bit stiff.
Why?
Well, because I did a leg press yesterday, and I quite stupidly played 2 hours of basketball today, full court, five-a-side, which, I typically always give a day after doing intense strength training. I don't normally do anything remotely as intense the next day. So I'll go for walks and stuff like that, but I won't play a lot of sport. Sorry, go on.
So did you enjoy basketball today?
Yeah, I did. But
well, shut up. Fuck what your sports scientists have to say. If you're happy, doesn't matter. As long as you're not doing it every day, doesn't matter.
Yeah, I suppose. Shut up, Ralph. So I've just plugged it in. So where were we? What was about? I was talking about ideas, weren't we?
Yeah.
Oh bloody! What train of thought were we on? We were on a specific thing. I've got the next thing I was going to ask you.
Right.
How do you? So when you generate ideas, when you when you lay down to go to bed or whatever.
Yeah.
How do you? So you say you write down in your phone, but how else do you capture and retain ideas and create a reference for those ideas? So you've mentioned some of the tools you use, but I'd just be interested in specifics.
Yeah, I'm really bad at organising it. I'll literally write it in my phone, write it in a notepad that I always keep at my desk. So they're very unorganised. And what I do is over time, I just decide which is the most important. I'll keep writing those down each day to remind me, or just leave it open in front of me. But I don't. A lot of my ideas would just sit in various notes. So I've got one note in my iPhone which would be videos I want to film, articles I want to write, just top line. It could be a word or a couple of words which remind me. Guests I want to get on the podcast, and that's my go-to. That's kind of where I keep my ideas. And for me, I think that works. If I go too much detail, it's just going to cause paralysis.
Okay, cool.
It's what works for you, right? You're more detailed than I am. So you need more detail. I don't, and it's about finding your sweet spot.
Yeah, definitely. It's a very individual thing. So I've been thinking lately about personal brand. I think someone's got lawrenceneal.com, which really upsets me. And I'd obviously love to have that domain. But, obviously Gary Vee talks about it. A lot of successful entrepreneurs talk about how important it is to have personal brand and start having your businesses, your interests under that. So I was thinking, obviously right now I have the Corporate Warrior brand and everything kind of comes under that, but should I have it under my name? Is that a problem? Will people think, oh, who's Lawrence Neal? Or will I lose part of my audience? How important is that? I'd like to know your thoughts on personal branding in general.
Yeah, it is important. But I mean, keep it as you are, because that's your product, that's your brand, right?
Yeah.
That's good in its own right. And but you can also add to it. So you can't have lawrenceneal.com, but you can have lawrencemneal.com or whatever, or losneal or whatever it is, or lawrenceneal.co.uk. And then with that, if you wanted to build it further and you wanted to build your identity, because that's what I've done. I've got stuartralph.com and I blog, still about OCD, but sometimes I blog about more philosophical type ideas because that's also an interest of mine, or something I've implemented in my life, or just a thought I had. And you become a thought leader in that space. And then you have the Corporate Warrior on that site as as a section saying, this is one of my passion products, this is one of my businesses, this is what I work on. You direct people there.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, I think sometimes it's good to have a separate brand. Obviously, it's also to a degree important to build up, say, Lawrence Neal, because if and when in a couple of years you decide, I've done all I can with Corporate Warrior, I don't want to take it any further, let's say, you've now got an audience there that you can drive people to your next venture.
Yeah.
So you've got more. It's a bit like saying, do I build up a big social audience or do I build up a big email database? Well, the good thing about an email database is you don't own those people. You own their details because they've given you the rights to have them. So you now have control over that. Facebook could tell you tomorrow, actually, all these fans you've collected, I'm blocking you. You can't have them. They have the right to do that. So do Twitter.
That's very true.
Whereas email, you're in control of that. And that's kind of like with your personal brand.
But aren't your email platform provider in charge of it technically?
No. As long as you pay, you own.
Oh, really?
It's your, yeah. There could be some small T's and C's which screw you over, which because no one ever reads that stuff. But no, you own it.
That's an interesting point, actually. How do you? So you have you've been building up a really good list, and you've got a great lead gen magnet, which is you give away. Is it Mark Freeman? His name?
Yeah.
You give away his book for free, so it's like a no-brainer for people to become to subscribe, and then obviously they get your content.
Yeah.
What's your process? So when people sign up, how often do they get content? Like how often do you email them? This sort of thing.
So just a quick plug, anyone who does struggle with some form of depression or down times, or someone who struggles with any type of mental illness like OCD, or just if you get anxious a lot, do go and subscribe and download that book. If you don't want to be on my list, you can unsubscribe, but you'll get the book. It's called The Acceptance Field Guide, and it's based on acceptance and commitment therapy. It's an incredible book by Mark Freeman, who gave me the right to give it away. But yeah, so basically I've got the opt-in page, which I direct people to sometimes, or I also have a pop-up, which only get shown once. If they delete the cookies, then they're new and they get another pop-up. I'm not big on pop-ups, but it does work. I use SumoMe for that. It's the same as you do, I think.
Yeah.
And then so once they're subscribed and confirmed, they get free automated emails. I think they're like 3 days apart each. One's just saying, thanks for joining the community. Here's the free book. In a couple of days, I'll be able to give you 50. If you like the book, I'll be able to give you 50% off of one of Mark Freeman's video courses on dealing with anxiety, or improving mental health. And I do that the next few days. I give them that email. They get that offer. It's not affiliated. I don't make any money. It's purely just trying to add value. And then I have my own video course if they specifically have a need for relationship OCD help. That's there. And then the third email is Mark Freeman's story. I'm doing a lot for Mark, but he's done a lot for me, so I'm happy. So I give him his story, and it's that way it's educating people about the stories on the website. The stories in the second email. The third email is the top 5 books that have helped me in OCD recovery and that I like. Yeah. There's affiliate links there, but as you know, you don't make much money from Amazon. But people really like that third email because they're looking for advice and help, and so that's offering value. And then after that, I send my database an email every week, offering them just the latest podcast, latest YouTube video. I usually add a bit of advice, something that's happened in the week.
So is that like an ad hoc broadcast? So you do that once a week when...
It's once a week. The day varies a little bit, but it's usually early in the week.
How do you make sure, like, let's say someone's... Because those other ones you mentioned are automated, aren't they?
Yes.
So let's say they get that, and then they get your broadcast. They'll get like 2 emails on the same day. Does that bother you? Is that how it works?
Yeah, it does. It's not ideal.
Yeah.
I'd rather it didn't happen. I'd rather they miss that week's email and then get it on the next. I could be wrong because I use Aweber. Maybe Aweber would do that.
I bet you there's some way you can get around that.
Yeah, I need to look into it. But I don't get many unsubscribers. So,
how many subscribers do you have so far?
500 now.
But that's grown so quickly, isn't it?
Yeah, that's been like 3 months.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
that is really impressive. Do you know? I was just talking about pop-ups. I have the pop-up and. It's not optimized. I mean, it's not that. I don't tend to get many subscribers for it currently. And personally, I find pop-ups really freaking annoying on other people's websites. And I find it annoying on my website. I'm starting to think that, maybe it does work, but at the expense that it pisses pisses people off. So I am thinking about removing that and taking advantage of other ways to increase the number of email subscribers, either via the podcast or the sidebar or whatever. So
with it, I completely agree. It's something I thought about, which is why I'm very like you only ever get shown it once.
Yeah. You can do that, can't you? You can play with the settings.
Yeah. And but what I also do is because I do a lot of YouTube videos, either posting the podcast or like my own sort of videos I've done for my own YouTube channel. In the comments, I'll put if you want a free book around how to deal with anxiety and OCD using acceptance commitment therapy, here's a free book, click this link, and it takes them to the opt-in page.
Okay.
And I think I get quite a few. I haven't tracked it, but I'm pretty sure I get quite a few that way.
So I'm going to jump back for a second because it's an important question that probably would have made more sense if we were talking about OCD stories and OCD in general.
Yes.
But I think it goes without saying that things like depression and severe OCD are very common and will stifle productivity significantly. Like if you're suffering from that stuff, I can imagine it must impact motivation a lot. You can obviously verify that with your own experience if you want to. Well, what are the most effective things that someone can do who's suffering from these things to stop this from really impacting their ability to get shit done?
Yes. So it's a good question. So, I've been in personal development now like 11 years, right? I won't go into my story, but like personal development really did kind of change my world, and I'm so grateful for it. But the thing is, if you're struggling with mental health issues, personal development is very much like, just do it, change your mind, think positive. And sometimes that shit doesn't work if you're battling your own brain with a mental health disorder. So I would push forward, and then I would have a down period, and I couldn't push forward. And I was like, well, why can't I do it? They're just telling me to think positive and da 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 da. And that's why I now bring personal development alongside scientific research for OCD recovery and merge the two, because no one's doing it, right? So it's a good niche, but it's also what I'm passionate about, helping people recover and helping them live good lives. Mark Freeman, the guy I just mentioned, he has a blog called Everybody Has a Brain. And the reason he calls it that is because we look at mental health so taboo, that anyone struggling with their brain, they must be weird. When mental health is anything, if you have low self-esteem, you have the poor mental health. If you have low confidence, you have poor mental health.
It's a spectrum, right? People
exactly.
look at it like that. It's a continuity, continuum, I should say.
Exactly. It's like with the body. You have good physical health, or you have poor physical health. It's obviously not black and white, it's a spectrum, but you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
But we won't look at people and say, oh, you're a bit overweight, or you've got a knee issue, right? We might with some people who are dramatically overweight, let's say, because we're like, look, we want you to do something about it, because for your sake. But you know what I mean? There's nothing taboo about it. But with the mind, it's taboo, and everybody has a brain, therefore everybody has mental health, same as everybody has a body, so everybody has physical health, and that's such an important message to spread. And when you look at the stats, that 1 in 4 people are going to fall on the depression spectrum at some point in their life. That is a scary, and I've had depression as a result, I think, of the OCD, not clinically, but enough to just paralyze me to the point where I don't really want to do anything. Suicide is the biggest killer among men, something like 20 to 35 years old.
Right.
More than cancer, more than heart disease, more than diabetes, more than HIV, more than, I'm trying to think of some other big illness. You get my drift.
Yeah.
None of those come close to depression, not suicide. And we need to talk about this. This is an epidemic. This is a real problem. And why is it a problem? Because we have more pressure in society today. There's less connection among people. We're not close enough with our families, with friends. If you live in a city like London, there's 8 million people. It can drive you bloody crazy. There's more bills.
Very British then.
Yeah, I know. There's more bills to pay. There's more things to worry about. You've got to be happy. You've got to achieve success. No wonder people are having fucking mental breakdowns. And I wanted to bang that point home, because it's something, and so many people struggle with anxiety, and they don't have to have generalized anxiety disorder or OCD. Some people worry too much, and that's a problem itself. And just on that note, I was going to show you a book, but yours audio only. I'm holding The Worry Trap by Dr. Chad Lejeune, who I'll be posting tomorrow, his podcast I did with him, which will be live by the time you hear this. And he kind of says, worry is a spectrum. You don't have to have full-blown OCD or generalized anxiety. If you worry too much and it's causing you a problem in your life, do something about it, because it's affecting you, how you live your life, how happy you are, the directions you take. So it's important to to work on our brain as much as we work on our body. And good ways of doing that is things like meditation, practice, learning or reading about acceptance and commitment therapy, right? Which is a therapy, but it's a great way to live a meaningful life. It's about realizing you're not your thoughts. Thoughts come and go. Thoughts are meaningless by nature. It's only the meaning we give them, which makes them positive or negative. We have control over that. And then once you realize you are not your thoughts, accept them, accept that they're there, accept that they'll be there regardless. And once you accept that they're there, you can live a life that's meaningful to you. And the third part of acceptance commitment therapy is committing to positive action. Know your values, know your goals. Even if you're down and you're anxious, you can still live a meaningful life. When you realize that, you're no longer sort of paralyzed by it as much, because you can go take action towards your dreams, even though you feel like shit and you feel weak because of the anxiety. You can still put one foot in front of the other and go live your life. And it's not easy and it's painful, but you can do it. And people often think because they're anxious, they can't. And that's a big lie your brain would tell you. But again, I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm saying it's possible. And I don't think I've answered fully your question.
No, but you have answered it. I mean, you can continue to add if you like, but it's, the end part is, what are the most effective things that someone can do to stop things like depression, OCD, stopping them from being productive. So obviously listening to your podcast would be a good start too. But you've mentioned some really good resources. So is there anything else you want to suggest on that or add to that?
Yes, absolutely. You don't have to have OCD to listen to my podcast. If you just suffer with a bit of anxiety, and you wouldn't even call yourself generalized anxiety, you'd still benefit from it, because that's what it's all about. And I also focus on kind of living a meaningful life. Meditation is huge, man, for everyone. So Dr. Stephen Hayes, who's the founder of Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, which he founded in 86, I think, or 87. And he calls this thing psychological flexibility, and someone's psychological flexibility, however flexible they are psychologically, can determine how likely they are to get a mental illness, and how quickly they bounce back from one, which is interesting because from his research, he's done over 500 academic scientific studies, him and his team. He's an absolute machine. He's like 70 now, I think, or close to 70. And
doesn't look that old.
No, he doesn't. He's such a lively, charismatic guy, but he's gone through so much pain himself, and he realizes that to suffer is to be human, and that's okay. And when we learn to be okay with the feeling and the suffering we have inside us, we can live a meaningful life. But we fight the anxiety, the fears, instead of just accepting that they're there, inviting them in and letting them live. And when you accept it, they will fuck off of their own accord. But your brain won't let you believe that. It will tell you all kinds of lies. A good quote on that is, someone once said, "Don't believe everything your brain tells you," which I like. But yeah, so psychological flexibility. So from his research, he found that you could tell. Using things like acceptance and commitment therapy will not only help you recover from a mental health issue, it will also prevent it. And this is the thing, people will be like, oh, I'll do certain things to recover, and they start to recover and they stop doing those things and they slip back. But it's the same as, you start running a lot or lifting weights and you get leaner, stronger, and you stop doing those and you wonder why you got fat again. It's the same with the brain. We need to be on it. We need to find ways to make us more psychologically flexible. Meditation is an amazing one for that, because it teaches you to see your thoughts as thoughts and learn to let them go. The Headspace app is an incredible app. It guides you through meditation. Andy Puddicombe tells you he narrates it as you go, which is great for those who aren't good at or don't know how to meditate. It really guides you, and it's helped me massively get a grip on meditation, and that was a huge part of my recovery. And that's a great way of, and when you'll notice, when you start meditating a lot, you let shit go. Things doesn't annoy you as much. You're happier, you're more focused. You're not away with the fairies half the day. You're in control of your life, and you're in the here and now. And to an extent, acceptance and commitment therapy is largely based on that kind of mindfulness approach. But practicing mindfulness, just walking down the street and just observing everything, feeling your feet on the ground, listening out for sounds, any smells. Bringing yourself in the present moment is, again, a great way of making yourself more flexible. Trying to think of anything else that can help. But yeah, I guess the big take is there's nothing wrong with getting down at times. It's life.
Yeah,
it's life. Just embrace it. Go with the flow, and you'll get out of it eventually.
Yeah, some really good answer on that. Let's have a quick chat about high intensity training. I mean, I would have obviously done an introduction that listeners will understand our relationship, but obviously we're very close friends. We've been friends for a very long time. So you've seen me go from exercising probably 8 to 10 times a week to 15 minutes a week, which is, I do slightly more now, but it's dramatic. It's crazy how I was able to get as good, if not better, results by significantly reducing the amount of exercise I actually did, but instead increasing the efficacy of that exercise. So what's your thoughts about high intensity training? I know you've obviously done it in the past and sometimes do it occasionally now. And what's your experience with that?
Yeah. One thing I'll add to that before I answer about my experience with HIIT is, because we lived together at uni, obviously, and when we came to London, we lived together for a few years, and that was before you kind of found HIIT, and you were working out like 5-6 times a week, and like one session could be you're just working on your neck, another one could be like grip strength, and then you're down the gym, or a lot of that you're doing at home with like chin ups, press ups, whatever, dips. And sometimes it was like, oh, well, let's go do this. And you'd be like, no, I can't because I got to work out today, or it's my rest day. And it's like, that's so much proof to an extent why HIIT's good. Even if it's not, maybe let's say it's not as effective as working out 5 times a week. What you gain from getting your life back in terms of time and your freedom to just live is worth it. Anyway, so yeah, HIIT, you got me into it. I can't remember why you that was it, because when you launched Corporate Warrior, it wasn't so much a podcast, it was around like an info product and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think we were going to record me from being a beginner over a few months to see how my body changed. Yeah. And we did. We recorded a few sessions, and I kept it up, and I grew. I remember I measured it from like December to March. This was a couple of years ago. I gained 3 inches on my chest and back size. And considering I'm not a big guy, it's quite good. And then my arms like 1.5 inches around.
Wow, yeah, that's great.
And I didn't put on fat, I was probably leaner. Yeah. So that was awesome, just to show the benefits of doing it. And it was taking me 8 minutes a week. I was doing 4 exercises: shoulder press, chest press, seated row, and lat pull down.
Yeah.
No, shoulder press. No, 5. And then I was doing squat rack.
Yeah.
Actually, when I played a lot of basketball, I stopped the squat rack.
Yeah.
Because it just crippled me.
So that's just on that. That's really, and this will be interesting for people to know. I've been doing 2-way split, which is from Body by Science. It's where you take the big 5 and you split it in 2 essentially. So I'm only doing I do neck, which actually is about 3 or 4 exercises currently, but then I only do 2 or 3 for the rest of my body. And I'm doing that once a week. And the reason I'm doing such low volume and once a week is because I'm playing basketball 3 times a week, and basketball is a very intense kind of glycolytic exercise. It fatigues your musculature, especially your legs. I mean, Jesus. That's why lately I look at my leg press numbers and I'm like, I know I can do more than that. Like, I can do more resistance and more time under load. And then I think, oh wait, hang on, I've been playing basketball 3 times a week and jumping explosively constantly. So it's obvious to me that that's not gonna. So yeah, just to your point that you have to factor this into your strength and conditioning program. You have to think about, what are my objectives? What else am I doing in my life that may impact my results, or even improve on those results in some cases?
Absolutely.
But yeah, sorry, you were saying about.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. You can't be rigid with it. You've got to be fluid. But yeah, when I left my last place of work, I didn't have access to a gym close by, so I wasn't doing, Doug McGuff's Big 5 every week. So I literally just didn't do any bodyweight stuff, because bodyweight is so painful with HIIT. It's ridiculous. It's hard enough, like regular workout body weight. Body weight here is just agony. There's no fun in it whatsoever. But so, you know, we played basketball the other week, and I did what do you call that exercise?
It was like a row, but you were like, so you were hanging under a bar, but not like a pull up. Like you had your body parallel to the ground.
Yeah, the bar was a few feet off the ground.
Yeah, and then you were pulling using both your arms to pull your chest towards the bar, like a rowing motion, a horizontal row. Yeah.
And you can show where I hadn't worked out. Like, it killed me the next couple of days.
Did you have DOMs? Did you?
Yeah, I did massively. But like, so tomorrow when I go shoot some hoops, I'm going to do hip press ups. I'll do hit that exercise again, and I'll do hit chin ups, and that would do me over for about 4 days. But I'm going to get back to doing that every week because I need to strengthen my upper body a bit for when basketball season starts again. But one thing I did notice, like, the muscle in my arms have come back a bit just from cycling, and that may sound weird, but you know, I think, as you said, you know, because I'm cycling and doing more exercise again, my testosterone levels are probably higher, and the whole time, you know, my arms are bent, they're on the handlebar, and they are tense because there's no suspension on my racer, and they're constantly working. Yeah. And I'll notice it when I get back. The traps that go from the they're just in agony where I'm tensed up, where my arms have been worked the whole time.
It's just like the same as it's like a static contraction. So it's like when you do a chin up and this is obviously a more extreme version or example, but like, you know, when you pull up and your chin's over the bar, if you were just to hold that, it's like a static contraction, and it's a similar type of thing. Yeah. So just because you're not moving a resistance through a plane of motion doesn't mean you're not loading the muscle or exercising the muscle.
No, absolutely. But yeah, I want to get back on hit again now, just to strengthen and I like to look good, you know. I've lost it a little bit.
Do you know what? Like, I think there's no shame in your goal being looking good naked if it means you're going to be healthier, have more muscle, more energy, better quality of life, etc. Because let's be honest, I mean, maybe when I'm older I have more appreciation, but for me to say, oh, I want to increase my, I don't know, improve a specific biomarker or, I don't know, improve health, as ambiguous as that is, it just wouldn't motivate me, you know, whereas getting down to 10% body fat or single digit or increasing lean muscle mass is a way more exciting goal. You know, and it facilitates obviously good other decent, more important outcomes, I should say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You know, some people are in the gym all the time and they want to look like an Adonis, and for some people that's fine, but I think for some in itself there's some mental health issues right there because they're trying to, I don't know, prove their masculinity or prove someone wrong or improve their self-worth by being a Hercules or whatever. And for me it's just like my standards of looking in the mirror and being happy are quite low. Like, I've got maybe a little bit too much body fat. Like, I would still be slim by most people's measure, but I can't quite see my abs as well as I want. And all I want to do is see them a bit. And you know, I look in the mirror and I'm like, you know, I'm happy with how I look. I don't want to be absolutely shredded and big. Like, the effort you've got to put in to get there does not make it worthwhile to me. It's like the 80-20 rule. 20% of my effort is going to give me 80% of my results, and I am happy with that 80 when it comes to my body.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's a good point. Cool. Okay, let's get on to some of these rapid fire or bonus questions.
All right, cool.
Who has been the biggest positive influence on your life?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question.
Did you get my email about this, by the way? Did I?
No.
Oh, okay. No, I did actually give you a heads up on email about this.
Oh, right. No. I had an email last couple of days. Who's been the most positive influence on my life?
If it's more than one person, that's
damn. Jeez. Do you know what? Fiona Harold. She wrote the book Be Your Own Life Coach. And I read that. I wasn't into personal development, and that came at a time when I really needed to hear that I could do anything and be anything I wanted, and her book did that for me, and that really changed my life, and I'm eternally grateful. But there's other people like Jeff Thompson who I got the pleasure of meeting. He's such an amazing human being, and the way he is and was with me was so inspiring. It makes me want to be a better person. Pierre Hassett, we both know, made a lot of money in property, but he's such a genuine, authentic guy and very inspiring, and he motivates me to be that type of dude when I hit my 40s. There's been a lot of people that have helped, but those are sort of three that stick out.
This might be a similar question, but
obviously you, mate.
Oh, thanks. There are obviously this is similar, but it's slightly different. Who would you consider have been the most helpful mentors to you in terms of your, I guess, life advice, but also business and such?
Yeah, I guess I was kind of answering that question before, but I guess Pierre Hassett from a business point of view, Jeff Thompson from like a spirituality point of view, Fiona Harrold from like a self-esteem point of view. Dr. Stephen Hayes more recently, the way he looks at the world and looks at suffering and alleviating that is very inspiring to me. He definitely makes me want to be a better person and help others. He did his TED Talk recently, and he said that's kind of the driving force behind all his academic journals and books is to alleviate human suffering as best as possible. And by alleviating it, that can mean literally telling people that they have to suffer. Because when you realize you have to suffer and you no longer struggle, in a weird way, it stops being suffering. Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, on that note, is an unbelievable book. I never met him, obviously. He probably died before I was born. But here, staying on this theme of people I've never actually met, Alan Watts is just, whenever I hear his stuff, it just resonates with me. And I'm not saying what he says is true, but it does something to me and really inspires me in a real way.
Okay, cool. What have you changed your mind about in the last year? And that can be on anything. So what's most like pertinent, like a way you thought about something for so long, and this year you realize, you know what, I don't think that anymore, I think this, or whatever.
Yeah, probably on politics. I've always been what's the point? It's bullshit. Nothing's going to change. Really neggy about it. And I was like, no, do you know what? Yeah, it might not change, but I can at least pick the best out of a bad bunch, and that's probably going to help the world or the UK in some way. And so I've not been so rigid on that. Like now I'm a big fan of, and because of that I got more interested. So I'm a big fan of Jeremy Corbyn of the Labour Party. He's a socialist, and not in a negative way. He's in the true sense of the word. And he inspires me. He gives me hope that actually we can have someone in charge of the country who actually gives a shit about human rights and making a difference to real people and not just corporations. Yeah. And I voted the other night for the mayor of London. And I did my research into it. My fiance helped motivate me to do my research, but I'm glad I did, because I voted for the guy who won, and I genuinely believe he was a lawyer in human rights. He grew up on a council estate. He's worked hard to get where he is. That's the person I want. Being the mayor of our great city, and he's a Muslim as well. I don't really think that matters too much. I think it's a great indication of how liberal our city is, that we don't buy into the bullshit of terrorism and try and say, oh, he's Muslim, therefore he's evil. He's not. He's Islam by nature is a very kind and loving religion, and so is Christianity. But again, both of those books have awful, horrendous acts against human rights in them, but they also have a lot of love, and you just pick which one you want, and the good Muslims and the good Christians pick the good things from those books and they follow it. So it's inspiring to see. So just quickly, that I told you before, he was the first Muslim mayor in the Western world, and I don't buy into all this bullshit of labeling people by their religion. He's a human being, but it's exciting as well because it's a marker of change, and I'm glad that I did go and vote. And I did vote for change and for hope and for something that's going to make a fucking difference, hopefully.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think, and I'm not ashamed. Ashamed is the wrong word. Afraid to say this, but even some of my listeners and a lot of people in my audience who are mostly American have a very, very distorted view on what Islam is, and they don't really get it. And it's quite sad, to be honest. And I think, and just a shout out to some of you guys listening, you definitely need to do your research to understand that actually Islam and Muslims aren't bad. And you really need to understand what that means and actually go and get some facts, because the media is not the place. The media is a very, very small snippet of the identity and the definitions behind these things. And yeah, I just want to make that point clear, because it's a big concern of mine that they're misunderstood. Sorry, go on.
No, I completely agree. I watched a video today actually on Facebook about this Muslim guy in, I think it was New York, and he was wearing almost like an Arab type white outfit gown, like you would wear in Dubai. And he had the head thing you'd wear in Dubai. I don't know what you'd call it. And anyway, he was walking down the street, and his really Jewish mate was next to him, who was wearing the black gown with the curly weird things by the ear and the weird hat. Yeah. And that's not knocking a religion. It is weird to me. It's a weird fashion sense, let's face it. But it's just a part of their religion. Anyway, so they're walking side by side. And then they would go, and they were filming like the reactions of people, and people were like gormless, just staring at them like it's the weirdest. And I'm like, you wouldn't get that in London. You just be like, who cares? It's a Jew and a Muslim guy. Like, who gives a fuck? I'm going to get a burrito. Like, you don't care. And I'm not knocking Americans, but because instantly, again, that video could have been manipulated to meet a certain message. I'm not ignorant to that, but this one guy, and they went through like a Muslim part of New York, and they asked people, what do you think about this? And they were like, it's all good, man, as long as you're getting on, we're all cousins at the end of the day. It's inspiring. And then they went through a Jewish part, and again, the same message. And people wanted their sit picture with these two guys. And then they went through Cosmopolitan area, and again, no one really gave a shit in that area. Which is what London's like, right? You don't care. But one guy walked past and said to the Jewish guy, he said, "Why are you hanging out with a terrorist?"
Fucking ignorant. Yeah.
And it was like, oh god. And then the Muslim guy did call him ignorant. He said, "You're ignorant," in a nice way. And then the guy said like, "Fuck off, bro," or something like that. And he said, "Peace be with you. Have a great day." Like, walked off. But there are people like that, unfortunately. But again, the media will latch onto that one ignorant motherfucker and make it look like the whole of America's like that.
True.
Or the whole of England's like that. And again, with Sadiq Khan, who's now the mayor, the Muslim guy, or the human being who chooses to practice the Muslim religion, let's get this right. He's not Muslim, he's a human.
Right.
And he in the press, the British press, they're saying how America has having such a negative reaction that we've elected a Muslim, and what the fuck are we doing? What's wrong with us? And again, we could instantly start hating Americans and being like, oh, they're so ignorant. Da, da, da. No, what's ignorant is our media that are probably spinning the lies of one fucking ignorant politician in America, or a couple hillbillies, or fucking picket fence Christians, and then blowing that up. And that's the real danger of the media. We can really hate people because the media will make it look so black and white, and it's not. Most Americans, A, probably don't even know it's happened, because they might not watch the British news, and B, probably don't give a shit. It's too busy watching the Golden State Warriors destroy the next team. Like, you know what I mean? But the media will sell a lie, and it's for us to not buy into that lie. And if we hate something, go do your research about that thing and make sure your hate is validated.
Absolutely.
It's destroying you internally.
Yeah, you make a really good point. It's good to point out that the blame is on the mass media. It's just crazy to me though, because obviously, I grew up. I have friends who are practicing Muslims, and they're absolutely wonderful people, and they have amazing values. And so, it's just, I get upset when I see people call it like it's black and white when it really isn't, to your point there. Okay, so I'll get off my soapbox now. So when in the last, how did we get onto that? Jeez, okay, that's weird. Oh yeah, I suppose you started talking about politics, didn't you?
Yeah.
In the in the last 5 years, when have you felt the most successful?
Oh, wow. Last 5 years. Oh, wow. Do you know, I can't pinpoint any, but there's definitely been a couple times with the OCD stories where I felt really successful. And I think it's when I get people, email me telling me that I've changed their lives or I've saved their life. And I don't necessarily believe I have. I think I just gave them a bit of hope in that moment. But for them to say that is so inspiring. And to me, there's no higher level of success than that. Maybe than doing it on a grander scale where I get those messages more often. But that definitely made me feel successful. What else? Job promotions don't do it for me anymore. It's really empty, I find, because it's not where I want to be. I recently got on a master's degree to study mental health and psychological therapies. I felt really happy to get on that because, I struggled in school. I was quite stupid. I didn't focus. It didn't interest me until I got to uni and actually pulled my finger out. But, I did terrible in science and maths, and now I've just been accepted into the 5th best uni for medicine in the UK. And that's something I never thought would be achievable. So that definitely made me feel successful. I don't know. It's just those messages mainly that really resonates with me. I feel successful when I'm touched emotionally. Right. You know what I mean? When something stirs my soul, that to me, that's success in a good way.
Yeah. If you could go back and give your 20-year-old self some advice, what would you say?
Wank less. I probably would tell him that. But I'd also tell him, take more risks. Risk more, because, most of the time the worst isn't going to happen. And if it does, you'll deal with it. Definitely just take more risks and let go of things so much. Don't hold on to the pain. Learn to go with the flow and meditate daily.
What are you really not very good at?
Attention to detail.
I think that's a strength though, isn't it, sometimes?
Sometimes, but it's with my career, it's getting me in trouble at the minute. Attention to detail is something I need. If I'm really passionate about something, I can really focus. I know it's a weakness, so I pay more attention to it. But if I don't necessarily give that much of a shit about something, I'm terrible at attention to. I apply the 80-20 rule too ruthlessly, and that can get you in trouble sometimes. But other than that, what am I bad at? Sometimes let my ego get the best of me.
Yeah, just to go back on that, I mean, I know someone who's the opposite of that, who's a perfectionist, and there's a crazy attention to detail, which can paralyze you.
He's a procrastinator. That's what he is.
Yes, he is, but
perfectionism is procrastination.
I've not thought about it like that, actually. I suppose that is true in a way. But what it means is you don't end up shipping. In other words, you end up delivering what it is you're trying to do, or publish, or post, or send, or whatever it is, create, finish. You don't ship it because you're constantly perfecting it, so to speak. Yeah,
perfection. That's how you go.
And there's obviously a standard. You've got to get all your projects too, but yeah, perfectionism, if that's even a word, can be paralyzing.
Yeah, perfectionism is good if it serves a purpose. If you're perfectionist about everything, that's a fucking issue. That's a problem that you need to deal with. And if you pay no attention to detail ever, that's probably also an issue that you need to deal with. You know what I mean? There's no black and whites. Perfectionism is very useful when it's purposeful.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Best piece of advice you've ever been given? A tough one probably for you.
Yeah. Best piece of advice. A couple really. One is obviously you are the average of the 5 people you spend your most time with. Mm-hmm. That's huge. I think, if you just lived by that one rule, you'd have a good life.
True.
The other one is by a Buddhist monk called Thich Nhat Hanh. He's written a lot around mindfulness, and he obviously didn't tell me this, but Mark Freeman did actually, which is when you learn to suffer, you suffer much less.
Right.
And basically it's saying don't fight your pain. Learn to be okay with it. And when you're okay with it, A, you won't be paying as much attention to it, and B, it will probably even go in some cases. Definitely with anxiety. Anxiety, the whole time you fight it, you're telling your brain, there's a risk here, I'm in danger. And your brain will keep sending it to you. If you relax into the anxiety, what you're showing your brain is there's no risk, there's no saber-toothed tiger after me, and it will stop pumping that chemical into your body. But it's in our nature to fight against it, which just makes it worse. So learn to suffer.
Okay, what, in the context of business, what book or books do you most often recommend to new entrepreneurs?
Wow, business. I just read Derek Sivers' book, which is, I think it's called Get Anything You Want.
Yeah.
40 Ways to Something, I can't remember that.
I haven't read that, but I want to. It's good.
Very, very, it's like 80 pages. Because he just said, he boiled it down. He took out all the bullshit.
Oh, it's really short, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
It's really good.
No, it's called Anything You Want, isn't it?
Okay,
Yeah.
It's really good. I did enjoy that. Another business book. It's been so long. I used to read business books all the time. So I read another one recently. It was really good, and I cannot remember for the life of me. I've lost it. Yeah, business book. I'm not being able to give you. Okay, slightly business book. How to Win Friends and Influence People. I read it years ago. Some people don't like it. I thought it was brilliant. It really helped me become better with people, which was an issue for me at the time. Still is to a little extent, but yeah, that book really helped me a lot.
It's one you can reread over and over, isn't it? That one.
Yeah.
That's a great book. Any others that come to mind, or is that those are the main ones?
So my bookcases in there, so I don't see them. Yeah, from business, that is the main thing. Yeah.
What about from personal development, or or kind of like OCD recovery, that type of stuff?
Yeah, OCD recovery, The Worry Trap, by Dr. Chad Lejeune. Get Out of Your Mind and Into Your Life by Dr. Stephen Hayes. Everyone should read that, because most people get stuck in their own head, and that book will teach you how to live a meaningful life and be present. It's an incredible book. There's one by Alan Watts which blew my mind when I read it. It's called The Wisdom of Insecurity, A Message for an Age of Anxiety. It's one of his first books he wrote in 1951, and it's just incredible way of looking at life and how to live a good life. Things like Meditations by Marcus Aurelius is really good. Trying to think of anything else. There's loads of books. There's been so many impactful books in my life. Marianne Williamson, which is Return to Love. Really, really good book.
That's enough.
Yeah. They'll be on your site with affiliate links, right?
Well, this is the thing. There's going to be so many blimmin' links because you mentioned so much stuff. But I think that's a good thing. And yes, of course, they will be affiliated to support this podcast, and I have no shame in doing that. Although I noticed recently Ferriss did a blog post, Tim Ferriss, I should say, for people that don't know what I'm talking about, with top 10 products he bought, or top 10 things he bought in the last year or something like that. And he had obviously affiliate links, but then he had a non-affiliate link next to it. And I guess in that context, that makes sense because it shows that he's not trying to just make money. Yeah. He's promoting the products because he thinks they're great products.
Yeah. I don't see a problem with it because you're not, as long as you're putting that link there because you know it's of service to your users, doesn't matter if there's an affiliate link. If you're putting it there just to make money, then it's an issue. Yeah,
absolutely, because then it devalues the content, doesn't it?
Exactly.
But I think with in the context of the podcast and both of our websites, I think why, if people are going to buy it anyway, I mean, why not make it affiliated? I mean, why let Amazon have all of the income? It's it's just a no-brainer for me. I don't know why some people have issues with affiliate stuff. I don't really.
I think those people are very far and few between.
Yeah, you mean few and far, yeah?
Whatever, mate.
Cool, man. All right, that's it. Is there any kind of last minute thoughts you want to share? Like, I don't know, something you want the listeners to do immediately, like something that a takeaway or something like that, like a big action.
Yeah. You can follow me on Twitter, which is at Stuart A. Ralph, or at the OCD Stories. Maybe check out my podcast if you think it's of interest to you. Ultimately, don't believe everything your brain tells you, and let go more often. Learn to just go with the flow, and I think you'll live a good life, and nothing's black and white. Do what works for you. That's it.
Cool. And I should ask as well, like, is that, of what you just said, is that the best way for people to contact you? Are there other platforms that you want to send people to find out more about yourself?
Yeah, so you can go to the ocdstories.com, go to stuartralph.com. Both of those websites have email contact forms. You can drop me a message there if you have a specific question, or just hit me up on Twitter, as I told you a minute ago. I'm also on Facebook under the OCD Stories, and Instagram, the OCD Stories. That's it. Yeah, I respond.
Cool. And for everyone listening, you can get all of the links, resources, show notes from this podcast on corpwarrior.com. That's CORP Warrior, WA2RSIOR.com. And that will redirect you to the current homepage, which is 15minutecorporatewarrior.com, which I still need to change, and I haven't done so. But yeah, thank you very much, Ralph, for coming on today. I appreciate it. This has been epic. How long have we been chatting for?
Like over 2 hours.
Not including the long intro. Which...
My bladder is about to burst. So.
Cool. All right. Cheers, Ralph. I'll talk to you soon.
Appreciate it, mate.
Bye.
Bye.